Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Kushina takes Naruto away from Konoha part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. Yondaime Hokage Minato Namikaze summoned the sealing plate form to seal the Kyuubi in his newborn son Naruto. His wife Kushina Uzumaki, who'd kept the Kyuubi in control using her chakra chains, was looking at her husband with eyes full of pain and betrayal. She had believed that he loved her more than anything, but just a moment ago he had made it clear that the village is more important to him than anything else. She knew Minato loved the village, but she didn't know that he would sacrifice his son's life for it. From Minato's words, it was clear that Naruto would be used as a weapon for the village, the same thing she hated with her very being. She wanted to stop that misdeed from being done, but she was too weak, and she was also holding the Kyuubi back. From the look on Kyuubi's face, she could tell he was angry, and if she loosens her hold on Kyuubi for even a moment, the monster will kill her son. She didn't care about anyone at the moment. They all could go to hell for all she cared. But she cared for her son, but still couldn't stop it from happening. Every moment was like someone was tearing at her heart when she saw Kyuubi being pulled in the seal in her beloved son. She came to reality when she heard her son's wails. She dragged her body to her son's crying form. Every wail and sobs coming from Naruto was just killing her. She knew he was in pain from the sealing. Even after being the Uzumaki, a little pain was like an after effect of sealing. She lifted her baby in her arms and embraced his frail form to her bosom and cooed, "Mama's here, Naruto. Everything is going to be all right." And as if he understood her words, his crying reduced to sobs, and he clutched his mom's hair tightly. Kushina giggled, "My son likes my hair," how she cooed, and the baby smiled, but that little moment of happiness with her baby boy cut short when suddenly someone yanked her baby away from her hands, and she felt like someone tore her heart away from her body. She met with the eyes of Danzo, who was holding her son. Her eyes turned to her son when he started crying. She narrowed her eyes. "Danzo, give me my son back," she snarled. Danzo smirked. "This child is a Konoha weapon and it's Konoha property. I will mold him into an amazing and strongest weapon," he said. Then his smirk disappeared and narrowed his eyes. "And if you dared to stop me or try to do something foolish, I will kill you right now," he said, and as he turned to go, a golden chain stopped his path. He stopped and turned to Kushina, amusing. "I wonder if your son will have these chains," he said, and signaled his 2 root umbus to kill Kushina, and they lunged at her. Hiruzen and other shinobis were still on their way to the location. Several civilians were also going to the location of Kyuubi sealing. Hiruzen had already known what Minato had planned. After all, Minato discussed it with Hiruzen. Hiruzen was surprised to know that Minato would sacrifice his newborn child. He was happy inside that Konoha will get a weapon, but it made him uneasy when Minato said to Hiruzen that his son must be seen as a hero who saved the village. Hiruzen chuckled at Yondaime's naivety. There was no way villagers will treat Naruto as a hero when it would come to their knowledge that Kyuubi is sealed in Naruto. When Hiruzen reached at the location, he saw that Danzo was holding Naruto, and 1 root umbu was dead on the ground and other was panting heavily. Kushina was glaring at the remaining umbu, and she was in worse state she could ever be. Kushina was on one of her knees. She was breathing heavily. Blood was pouring out from her arms and legs from several gashes that she took from first umbu. Her clothes were tattered. Her face was painted in her own blood, which was flowing from a wound on her head. Her body was trembling from the tiredness and exhaustion. Her eyes were opening and closing, indicating that she was fighting unconsciousness. Her chains were already on the verge of totally vanishing. Only 1 out of several was remained in existence. Hiruzen couldn't believe his eyes. Even after giving birth just 2 hours ago, even after crossing the limits of exhaustion, even after being so bruised and wounded severely, she was fighting. She really was a true shinobi, woman and a mother. The second remaining root umbu lunged at her with his sword in attempt to strike her neck, but in the nick of the time she blocked it with her chain, but the chain cracked and was ready to vanish. The root umbu smirked behind his mask and pushed more. Without wasting any moment, Kushina pierced his skull and the umbu fell down on the ground with a thud as her chain disappeared, which showed that she didn't have any ounce of chakra left in her. She tried to stand up on trembling legs. "Give me back my son," she said as loud as she could, but it came out as a whimper due to her passing the limits of exhaustion. Suddenly her eyes widened when she felt something warm on her stomach and a stinging feeling on her stomach. She looked down and saw that a sword was sticking out of her stomach and blood was pouring out from the spot where blade had pierced. She again lifted her head and her tired violet eyes again met with Danzo's. She blinked and slowly turned to look at the owner of the sword. Her eyes widened to their limits, and her breath hitched for a second. When she recognized the face of the one who stabbed her. The person was a teenage boy of age not more than 13 years, but the most shocking thing for her was that he was a member of her genin team. Other two members of her genin team were standing behind the one holding the sword. Minato had given her a genin team when he saw her giving tips to Itachi. He thought her talent would go to waste like this, so he provided her a genin team. They were good kids. She never expected that it would be her genin team to whom she had trained. What were they doing here? Didn't they go to shelter and safe house like everyone? She gazed at the boy for some seconds, then narrowed her eyes and lifted her head only to saw that everyone was standing there, Hokage, with all Jounins, Chunins and some of clan heads like Hayashi and Fugaku with their wives. Everyone was there. She recognized Mikoto standing there, behind her husband Fugaku, with a blank look on her face. The boy retracted his sword back from her stomach and she stumbled backwards. Everyone was there, her friends, her well-wishers, her comrades, everyone. Then she narrowed her eyes and noticed that not everyone was there. Enko, Yugao, Tsum and some others were not in them. Were they hiding somewhere, or they were not here because they were on a mission? Then she remembered Enko's visit at her home when she was about to go on a mission, but what about Yugao and Tsum? She looked at Hokage, who was standing there with a look of triumph which showed that he won something. She wanted to chuckle but couldn't. She didn't even have the strength to chuckle anymore. Her instincts were always right, and that's why she was always suspicious of everyone in Konoha, but what you could do, when you had to live in those people forever, you would come to trust them eventually. Ignoring the wound in her gut, she turned towards the person who was holding her son, and because she was unable to speak, she lifted both of her hands and stretched them outward in front of her in a pleading way to give her son back to her, but a trickle of blood escaped from the corners of her dried lips when someone pierced her again in the stomach, then retracted the sword back and again stabbed her, and kicked her in the back, which made her lean on one knee. Blood started to flow out of her wounds like a river. She fell down, losing all strength in her body and mind. Her breathing became slow and long strides. She gazed at the sky. It was already dawn. She thought about her life. She lived a not-so-happy life. Her clan was destroyed, and it left a deep scar on her heart, but after coming to Konoha, after a certain incident, she fell in love with Minato, and then the scar started to heal slowly. She loved Minato deeply from her heart, but that same person betrayed her in the end, not only her husband but her friends and whole Konoha. She had only one regret at the moment, and that was, she couldn't do anything for her son who had just come in this cruel world, some hours ago. She couldn't talk to him, couldn't see him growing up, she couldn't shower him with her unconditional love as she had wanted from the start, even before her baby came into the world. She turned her head and looked at her baby boy. He had stopped crying and now was looking at his mother. His lower lip had stretched outward, ready to cry again. His blue eyes were calming her, but alas, she will never be able to gaze in those eyes again. Then suddenly the distance started to grow between her son and her. The smile which she was showing to her son vanished, and her mind went in frenzy. No, don't take him away from me. She wanted to yell it, but words didn't come out. Tears had already started to pour from her eyes. No, give me back my son, give me back my son. You filthy human, give me back my son, bathump, bathump, bathump. She could hear her own heartbeat pounding in her ears. Suddenly Kushina's breath hitched and her body temperature started to rise. She felt like her body was melting from inside. Her irises disappeared from her eyes and soon after her pupils. Her violet eyes started to turn whitish with tints of red mixed in it. 2 wide red markings formed on her cheeks, starting from under her eyes, like an arc, to her chin. Red cracks appeared on her whole body, and they were shining as if lava was filled in those cracks. A black and red shockwave erupted from her and passed through all who were present there. A bone-chilling feeling of fear washed over whole village and its residents. Her hair became more like blood was flowing in the wind. She had red color as tints on her pale body. Her breasts became larger and more alluring. Kushina slowly stood up. Everyone was watching her with wide eyes and sweat dripping from their pores. They were all surprised at what and how it was happening. Kushina's hands turned into blackish red scales and her nails turned into large sharp claws. A 4 inches wide and 7 or 8 foot long tail emerged from the base of her spine. The tail had black color with red marking like cracks on it. And on closer inspection, one could see that the tail had scales too. In her legs were knee-high black scaly-looking boots. A red and black aura of energy, or was it chakra, surrounded her. Her height increased to 6.5 foot. The thing that remained unchanged was her tattered and torn cloths. A piece of her white tattered blouse was hanging from her breasts and supported on her right shoulder, and her tattered pants, which was now so short that it reached to only her upper thighs. It looked like a simple cloth was wrapped around her hips. After the transformation completed, she opened her eyes. What is this, she thought, looking at her arms that had red cracks to the elbows and then scaly claws in place of her fingers. This power, this feeling, it's amazing. I feel revived and much powerful than before. My wounds are all healed, she thought, and looked at the sky. It was morning with sun above the horizon. It was pin-drop silence in the area. Everyone had wide eyes in shock and fear because Kushina was looking like a true demon now. My son, she muttered under her breath and looked towards the person holding her son. Kill that demon, Danzo shouted out in fear. Every Jounin and Chunin lunged at her. They shot different kind of attacks towards her like fire, lightning, water, earth. Kushina stood there calmly, without doing anything, just watching the attacks soaring towards her at a normal speed. When the attacks were about 10 feet away from her, an invisible barrier erupted from the ground and blocked all attacks. She motioned her tail and sent it towards Danzo at blinding speeds and wrapped it around her son and retracted her tail back and took her son back in her arms. Danzo couldn't comprehend what was happening. His eyes became wide seeing as how fast she took her son back from his hands, and he couldn't even blink. As Naruto came in her arms back, she felt like her heart started to beat again, which had stopped beating, literally. She felt her heart leapt up in joy. She couldn't stop her tears from her pupil-less and iris-less eyes. She showered Naruto's face with butterfly kisses which made her baby boy smile and squeal from the feeling of his mother's warm kisses. The assault of Jounins and Chunins continued in the form of different kinds of jutsus, but they were all being blocked by the invisible barrier. Danzo, enraged, rushed towards Kushina, but as he came in contact with the barrier, an electric shock ran through his body and threw him several feet back and blue sparks ran through the barrier. Seeing this, everyone started to take their steps back in fear. Hokage moved towards the barrier. He too was nervous and tints of fear had already originated in him, but he was Hokage. He wouldn't show fear in front of his peoples, but he was sweating profusely. Hiruzen lifted his hand and touched the barrier with his index finger, and as Danzo, he also felt an electric shock ran through his body, and his whole body became numb. He stumbled several steps back on wobbling legs. Then Jounins and Chounins threw weapons like kunais and shurikens, and some even threw wind and fire-enhanced kunais to the barrier, but as they touched the barrier, their weapons, shurikens, kunais and swords, all burned and melted in front of their eyes like wax. You damn whore, you showed your true colors. You monster, I will kill you and that demon son of yours and free this village, Danzo shouted in anger. Hearing him, the people present there got their courage back a little and they also started to shout. Hiruzen looked to Kakashi. Kakashi, tried to use your lightning and see if it does anything, Hokage said to Kakashi in a stammering voice. He was still trembling a little from earlier electric shock. Kakashi nodded and activated his Chidori and ran towards the barrier, which was visible now in transparent blue color. Kakashi threw his Chidori to the barrier, but his eyes widened when he saw that the barrier attracted his Chidori like they were opposite sides of a magnet, and the barrier absorbed his Chidori. He stumbled backward in shock. I think we first need to know what this barrier is, Danzo said to Hiruzen. Hiruzen nodded. Yeah, but how could it be this strong? Nothing is working against it, and moreover, what the hell Kushina changed into? She looks like a real demon, Hiruzen said, looking towards Kushina, who now has turned her back to all of them. So they didn't know what she was doing. Kushina was in contentment, while she was breastfeeding her son. It was second amazing feeling after being a mother. She thanked God to give this opportunity to breastfeed her son second time. Suddenly she sensed someone behind her. How did they penetrate the barrier, she thought, and turned to look who it was. And when she saw a man emerging from the ground, she narrowed her eyes. Oh, Earth user. Now, it was the time to punish them for what they did. While breastfeeding her son, several red chains, with black wisps coming out of them, emerged from her back, and before the man could even come out of the ground completely, a red chain pierced his brains and splattered the brain matters on the ground. Everyone became horrified from the sight. Well, let me make it easy for you, Kushina said and closed her eyes for a second, and as she opened her eyes the barrier disappeared, just like that. Kushina looked at the crowd of villagers and shinobis. The barrier has been disappeared, she smirked, showing her large and sharp fangs. So, come on, strike me, she said, and looked at Hokage and Danzo. But I am warning you, if you love your life then go back and I will not kill you, but if you don't love your life and family then come, she said, stretching her free hand outward and using her index finger she motioned them to attack her. For a minute everyone was silent. It was complete silence, only the chirping of birds were interrupting the silence. Then with a cry, they all ran towards Kushina. Her smirk turned into feral, her chains became active and she wrapped her tail around her and Naruto for security measures. She saw that her 3 genins were in front line, and seeing this she smirked like a predator. One of her chain went soaring towards the genin who was holding the sword and had stabbed her earlier. The red chain stabbed the teenage boy in the left thigh. He stopped and cried in pain. Second chain pierced his right thigh, then third chair pierced his right shoulder, and then left. Then she lifted him in the air for everyone to see what she was going to do with him. A chain came near the boy's gut and started to pierce his stomach at a slow pace. The boy cried out in agony and writhed. How does it feel to be stabbed in the gut, huh? Are you having fun? No, I guess, but that's the fate you chose, Kushina said, and another chain pierced him between his lungs. Then several chains pierced him and tore his body to shreds, and his insides were thrown on the faces of his teammates. The other two genins became horrified and started to retreat, but before they could retreat, several chains pierced them. She sighed in sadness. It was not fun to kill kids, but they called it upon themselves, and there's an old saying, when the buffaloes fight, crops suffers. After killing her 3 genin students, she saw 2 Anbu to her right and 2 Jounins and 2 Chunins in front of her, and Hokage and Danzo to her right. She pierced the thighs of the 2 Anbus and then severed their limbs and threw them at the Hokage and Danzo. 4 chains erupted from the ground and stabbed in the stomachs of Jounins and Chunins. The Konoha Jounins and Chunins weren't even able to see the chains, let alone dodge them. She took a step forward and kept shredding their heads, legs and arms of her opponents. She didn't care if it was a civilian or shinobi, both were responsible. The blood had started to pool on the ground, painting the ground red and filled with limbs everywhere. Now everyone was panicking and a stampede occurred. Kushina was dodging, blocking and attacking at the same time in all directions using her chains. Suddenly someone threw a smoke screen and smoke filled the area, but she could see their chakra like a Byakugan user, so she didn't stop her assault. Uchiha Fugaku casted a genjutsu, but she sent him in a genjutsu like Mangekyo Sharingan. Yamanaka's tried to enter her mind, but a fierce look made them faint. Yamato tried to make a wood barrier around Kushina, but her chains shattered it like butter. Then Kushina saw a horde of bugs coming towards her. She smirked. Her chains started to heat up, and they became so hot that they started to encase in a fire and send some of her chains in the horde of the bugs, and the chains started a dance of bug death, and just after 1 minute the field was clear of any bugs. She lifted her hand and stretched her palm outward. Several fire dragons came out of her palm and started to burn the whole area, the village, and soon after that a sky-high fire started to burn the village to smithereens. The fire became so fierce that it could be seen from miles away. The cries of pain and agony could be heard inside and outside of village. The greenery started to burn. People were running here and there to escape from fire. The civilians who were at the location where fight was going on had already ran away to save their lives. Hokage and Danzo were just looking at their village wide-eyed. How did it turn like this? It was so easy and perfect plan, then how did it happen? His whole village was burning down to ashes. Anbus, gather all water users and try to control the fire. Use any means to stop this fire now, Hiruzen shouted at his lungs. He turned to Kushina with rage in his eyes. You will pay for this, Kushina, Hiruzen growled and made his way towards the village, but as he moved 1 step several chains blocked Hiruzen and Danzo's path. Where do you think you are going? Kushina said calmly. Suddenly Kushina felt someone behind her and turned to see who it was. The person was Kakashi and a group of Jounins and Chunins. They all came at her together. It only made her more excited to sever their limbs from their bodies. She retracted her chains and attacked the group of shinobis, and in just a matter of seconds their limbs fell down on the ground, heads and legs and arms, their half-bodies which had been cut from middle. Then suddenly she felt a little stinging sensation on her. Naruto was sucking. Ah, Naruto, don't bite on it, she scolded her baby. And the baby gave a squeal in return and a large smile, like he knew what was happening and he was excited and enjoying it. Kushina turned towards Kakashi and found him disappear. Huh, where did he go, she thought, and for a moment her eyes widened, then narrowed when Kakashi emerged from the ground and hit her from behind, but she blocked the attack with her chain at the last moment and turned to look at him. Kakashi just pissed his pants literally when he saw the look of an enraged devil on her mentor's wife. Keikushi, before he could complete the sentence, several chains pierced him on several places but missed his heart, but Kushina didn't give it much attention. He would die from blood loss. She lifted him in the air. Blood was pouring from his wounds and he vomited blood. Kushina threw him to the side like a ragdoll. Then she sensed a powerful chakra at the Hokage monument and narrowed her eyes. She made a shadow clone and sent it to check. You know what you have to do. I guess it's the masked man? If you get the chance, then kill him, Kushina said to her clone and nodded. The clone vanished. The masked man was watching the sight from the Hokage monument, and he was sweating. It was like a calamity. It was more dangerous than Kyuubi. Whatever happened to Kushina, he was also trying to comprehend and understand but couldn't. Suddenly he felt the same presence as the location of fight, behind him, and he turned to look at the person. He started to sweat more. How long was she standing there? I couldn't even sense her presence, he thought, and he saw her twitch, but before he could activate his kamui, she grabbed the mask and it shattered under her fingers in human pressure. Her eyes narrowed as she tried to identify the person. Who are you, she asked. Then she narrowed her eyes. You are the one who freed Kyubi from me, right, she said, and the chains emerged from Clone's back and pointed towards the person. Suddenly her eyes became wide in realization. When she recognized the person, you are Obito, she voiced in shock, and he decided it was the cue for him to retreat. He then transported into other dimension using Kamui, by taking the advantage of Kushina's momentarily shock. Ah, Kamui, I will have to think something about it, she muttered and dispelled. So it was Obito, original, Kushina muttered. She noticed that two root umbus were standing in front of him, but before they could move, she stretched her arm outward, moving her index finger sideways in a denial. She stopped them. TCH, don't you dare to touch my son, she growled, and two chains pierced their heads and they fell down dead. She looked around and noticed that no one was there anymore. She sighed, then her breath became slow, and she felt her consciousness fading. She activated the barrier immediately before anything could happen. Her tail disappeared and her hairs changed back to their previous form. Her eyes turned to their violet color, and she became just like she was before. She fell down with Naruto still nursing on her breast, and the exhaustion did it work on her, and she closed her eyes. Naruto kept nursing on her breasts whole time. Just how much hungry a baby could be, it was only Naruto, or every baby is like that. Kushina thought with closed eyes, and then she became unconscious. After 5 hours in the afternoon, the village was destroyed. Nothing remained unharmed. Hokage was watching the burning village, standing on the collapsed Hokage building's debris. Every paper and documents were burned. Nothing remained intact in the Hokage building. The howls of pain and the cries of agony were like hot melted iron in Hokage's ears. He gritted his teeth in anger. He was going to have a weapon and become the strongest village again. Their plan was perfect, then how did it come to this? Danzo came beside him with other council members. How's the rescue operations coming along? Shikaku Hiruzen asked with frustration. Shikaku looked at the demolished village. Our every shinobi is working their sweats out to rescue as many people as we can. We also trying to blow out the fire, Shikaku said, then looked at Hiruzen. Shikaku, Sum and Chuza were the only clan heads who were absent when the fight between Kushina and everyone was going on. What happened which made Kushina-san do this? Shikaku said, narrowing his eyes. I also would like to know that. What did you geezers do to make my cheerful friend do all this? Sum said, somewhat growling. She was busy with civilians to escape them to the safe house, but when she caught the wind of what happened, leaving everything, she rushed to the location. Shikaku and Akimichi were also there. And the sight and the stench of blood and guts that was everywhere just made them vomit. There were limbs and bodies everywhere around Kushina. They tried to go to her, but the barrier stopped them. Their eyes widened when they saw Kushina. She was covered totally in blood and in the tattered cloths, and her child was sleeping atop her breasts. She had her arms wrapped around him protectively from any harm. Some couldn't stop her tears after seeing the sight. Nara and Akimichi were on good terms with Kushina. At the time they had only one thought in their mind: why and what made you do that, Kushina? They knew she will never kill any innocent. It must have been something terrible that she couldn't take. So what happened? Chuza asked. Danzo, Hiruzen, Koharu, Hamura and some noble civilian members looked at each other. Hiruzen then sighed. We wanted her son Naruto to be a loyal weapon of Konoha after Minato sealed Kyubi in him, Hiruzen said, and Sum, Shikaku and Chuza widened their eyes. After pondering a little they understood why Minato did that. T then, Sum asked. She looked like she was going to cry when she heard that Kyubi was sealed in Naruto. The child had just born and he was already condemned to such fate. We took her child from her, and he stopped and looked at Danzo. And what? Sum shouted. We tried to kill Kushina, Danzo stated. What? The three widened their eyes. Sum put her hands on mouth. It was needed because, if she had left alive, she never would have let her son turn into a weapon, and the emotions makes a person weak. These useless emotions not needed in a weapon. So we killed her, but we don't know what happened. She changed into some kind of creature or something, and it all happened, Danzo said, finishing. Sum had tears in her eyes, and Shikaku and Chuza were clenching their teeth in anger and disgust. How could you do that? Shikaku hissed through gritted teeth. Why, you are not human. You are monsters in human disguise. I feel ashamed calling myself a Konoha kunoichi, Sum said, growling, and ran to her home. Shikaku and Chuza shook their heads in disappointment. We agree with Sum, they said, and went to their homes. Sum entered her home angrily, pushing the door so hard that it became loose hinges. Hana, she shouted, Hana, come here now, Tsum yelled to her lungs. Hana came running. She froze when she saw the furious look on her mother's face. Yes, Mom, she said meekly. Hana, go to Kusina's location now and wait there, and when she wakes up, bring her here. And if anyone tries to stop you, treat them as nuisances, even Hokage, Tsum said, and Hana nodded, but before going out she needed to calm her mother. She put a hand on Tsum's shoulder. Mom, I am going, but before that you need to calm down. It's not healthy for the baby, you know. You are about to give birth to my brother or sister, Hana said, and Tsum calmed down. Tsum's husband had died 7 months ago, 1 month after Tsum had conceived the child. Hana then immediately rushed out to Kushina's location. When Hana reached there, her mind went into dizziness from the rotten smell and she almost fainted from it, but she composed herself and looked at Kushina. Her mom had warned her that there's a barrier around Kushina, so she will have to wait for her to wake up. It was hard for her to stay there, so she made a little distance between them and decided to keep an eye from afar. What are your plans now? Danzo asked to Hiruzen, who smirked evilly. If Kushina doesn't transform again, then I am sure we would be able to incapacitate her. Then separating her from her son would be effortless, and then she herself might be useful for us, Hiruzen said, and Danzo and everyone nodded and went to their own devices. It had been 4 hours and there was no sign of Kushina waking up. Naruto had also woken up and now he was crying from was night, so Hana had made a small fire near Kushina's location. Tsum had also come there when Hana didn't return with Kushina. Both mother and daughter together were waiting for Kushina to wake up. On the whole, it had been 12 hours since the incident, and it was night now. Hokage had sent information to every shinobi who was out on missions and ordered them to return as soon as possible. Kushina groaned and she slowly opened her eyes. It was dark. Hun, it's night already. It seems a whole day has passed, and she heard Naruto's cries and she immediately sat up and lifted Naruto in her arms and started cooing. Naruto's face was red from crying and he was snotting too. Ah, my baby, Mama is sorry, baby. You must be hungry. Is my boy hungry? She said lovingly and pulled up her tattered blouse or whatever remained of it and put her in crying Naruto's mouth, and instantly, he stopped crying as he found the appendage and started to suckle on her. She winced from the stinging feeling in her when Naruto sucked a little harshly. In attempt to satiate his hunger immediately, he bit on her a little. Ouch, I am sorry. She also understood what happened. He wanted to fill his stomach as soon as possible. Kushina just sighed in contentment and then looked around. Oh, the barrier, she thought. She slowly stood up, her stomach growled in hunger. How long has it been since she had eaten anything? More than 24 hours. She deactivated the barrier and noticed the fire. Who is there? Kushina shouted, narrowing her eyes. Hana and Tsum heard Kushina and came rushing to her. Kushina, are you alright? Tsum asked in worry as she stopped in front of Kushina and started to check for any possible wounds. Kushina looked at Tsum for several seconds and then startled when Tsum hugged her and started to cry on her shoulder, muttering I am sorry again and again. Kushina sighed and put her free hand on Tsum's shoulder to calm her down. After Tsum calmed down, they looked at each other. Kushina, if I had known about it I wouldn't have let it happen, Tsum said in a cracking voice. Kushina scoffed, hearing Tsum. You couldn't have done anything because whole village was against me and you couldn't have fought the whole village. Could you face it, Tsum? No one could have done anything, Kushina said and looked at Naruto, who was desperately busy in filling his stomach. Tsum couldn't say anything after hearing her. Kushina was right. She couldn't have done anything except making the whole village an enemy of her and her clan. She looked down in distress but looked up when Kushina put a hand on her shoulder. But I am happy that you were not there, Kushina said, smiling. That made Tsum confused, but after some moments she understood, and her eyes widened and welled up. Who were there? Tsum asked, on the verge on crying. Kushina looked in the distance above Tsum's shoulder. Everyone I can think of except a few, even my friends like Makoto, Hayashi and Fugaku and many more, Kushina said and looked at Tsum. Tsum clenched her fists so tight that her knuckles became white. But don't worry, they would get what they deserve, Kushina said. Tsum then calmed down and smiled. Okay, Kushina, come with me and you should take a bath and eat something and rest. You can stay in my house as long as you want, Tsum offered, smiling. Kushina smiled hearing her and looked at her. Tsum, I am glad to hear that, but you need to understand that right now I don't trust anyone, especially my friends, but don't worry, you are not in them, but still after what happened, it's hard for me to trust anyone, and if I stay with you it will endanger you too, Kushina said grimly. Tsum's eyes widened hearing it. But she tried to say, but Kushina cut her off. Tsum, you are still my friend, just give me some time. Okay, Kushina said softly and Tsum nodded. Tsum could understand where Kushina was coming from. Kushina then adjusted Naruto in her arms. Okay, then I shall take my leave, she said and started to move, but Tsum stopped her. What are you going to do now, Kushina? Tsum asked. Kushina stopped and looked at the sky. Then she looked at Sum and a grin formed on her face showing her white teeth. Right now I am going to eat and take a long shower, and then sleep, she said, and went to her home. Sum smiled hearing Kushina in her usual tone and also went to her own home. Kushina made her way back to Uzumaki residence. As she reached the Uzumaki residence, she saw several people throwing stuff to her home, but they were all being blocked by the barrier seal around the house, and just as those people saw her they dispersed in fear. She entered in the house and first thing she did was prepare some instant ramen. She knew it wasn't healthy but she would worry about it later, she was starving now. After stuffing 3 bowls of instant ramen she stopped eating and sat down on couch. She looked at Naruto and giggled when she saw him still drinking her milk. How long are you going to drink it? Huh, let's go and take a bath, she said and separated Naruto from her breast, with a whimper from Naruto and lay him on the couch. She stretched on the couch to relieve her body from any tension. She then stood up and removed her cloths, whatever remained of them. There was no one in the house so she didn't care. First, with a wet towel she wiped Naruto's body clean and wore him new clean cloths. She then lay him in a crib and took him to the bathroom with her so that he could be in front of her eyes all the time when she takes her bath. She sat in the hot water and cleaned her body all over, off of any blood stains. Then she relaxed her head at the edge of the tub and looked at the ceiling. It was a long day, now what should I do? I can't stay in this hellhole but I can't leave right now. If I leave right now then I will leave several things unfinished like Hiruzen, Danzo and several others that could create problems in the future, she thought, and took a brief glance at Naruto. Well, for the time being I will stay in the Uzumaki shrine and train Naruto there, and see if there is anything related to Uzumakis. I remember the time when Dad had told me that this shrine has a mask used to summon Shinigami. The shrine is not that famous so I don't think many people know about it. I will think about it later. And when Naruto gets a little older, we will head for Yuzushiogakure. But I can't be careless just now. They are still alive and I will have to do something about them, she thought, and decided to get out of the tub. After half an hour she came out of the tub and dried her body and donned a white pajama and a loose white shirt, and taking Naruto lay down on the bed. She unbuttoned her shirt and put her back in Naruto's mouth and faded to dreamland. Kushina woke up next morning. She took a look at her only lifeline and smiled. She kissed his forehead and went to freshen up. She made a proper breakfast for herself and with Naruto in her lap, she sat on the couch. As she finished her breakfast, Kushina heard someone shouting her name outside. She stood up and went to outside and saw Anko standing there waiting for the seal to be deactivated. Kushina let her enter in the house and they both went inside and sat on the couch. Anko was a chunin of Konoha. She was 10 years old with purple hair and 4.9 foot of height. She was as strong despite her age and had a well-developed body than any other girl of her age. At the age of 8 years old she was chosen by Sannin Orochimaru as an apprentice, and went with him on a training trip abandoning his academy in middle. Hokage promoted her to a genin before all students on the behalf of Orochimaru's recommendation and also because she knew everything she needed to know as a genin. She was a prodigy. After that Orochimaru took her on a training trip and then after 2 years he betrayed her and left her to die. When she returned to the village Kushina was the only one in whole village who didn't turn on her. So she respected and trusted Kushina with her soul and more than anything or anyone. Anko was silent and from her body language Kushina could tell she was feeling somewhat nervous. Kushina kept looking at Anko making it harder for Anko to say anything. Kushina then smiled and made Anko confused, since just a second before she was staring at her with suspiciousness and next second she was smiling. Anko, Kushina called her abruptly. Why yes, Anko stammered. Do you know what happened when you were on your mission? Kushina asked. Anko's eyes met with Kushina's and seeing the smile on Uzumaki woman's face Anko's nervousness disappeared. Yes, I heard from Hokage-sama about what happened, Anko said. What did he say to you? Kushina asked. He said that you went berserk and killed many shinobi and civilians. Anko told her what Hokage had told her. Kushina smiled and looked at Naruto lovingly caressing his whiskered cheeks which made him smile. Do you believe him? Kushina asked without looking at her. Kushina-sama, as much as I know you, you can't do this and if you have done this then there must be one hell of a valid reason behind it, Anko said making Kushina look at her. Kushina looked at her smiling. Thank you Anko for believing in me, Kushina said and Anko just smiled. Kushina-sama, might I know the reason behind it? Anko asked a little apprehensive. Yeah, why not? Kushina said and started to tell her the whole story. After Kushina finished her story, Anko had her fist clenching and her nails digging in her palm resulting in bleeding of them. She had slight tears in her eyes. Kushina-sama, Anko started but Kushina beat her to it, Don't apologize for it because it was out of your hand and you were not here, and even if you were here you couldn't have done anything, Kushina said, and Anko looked down. What are you planning to do now? Anko asked, lifting her head. Kushina looked at Naruto, who was sleeping in her lap peacefully, and closed her eyes. After what happened, I want to see what would be Hiruzen's next step, and I know, till evening he would do something nasty again. And after finishing this matter with Hiruzen, I would go and live in Uzumaki Shrine for a while until Naruto gets a little older, and while living there I want to teach Naruto Fuinjutsu, and everything I know, and if he awakens something like me due to Kyuubi, then I will also have to keep an eye out for it. And I also have to talk to Kyuubi. Well, after that I would leave for Yuzushiogakure. There is something I want to find out about the massacre that had taken place in Yuzu decades ago, Kushina said, and looked at Anko. Anko was a little surprised that Kushina told her all of her plan. Kushina-sama, might I ask you why you are trusting me so much? Anko asked the question she wanted to ask for a while now. Kushina smiled. Because like me you know how it feels when the person we have so much trust and hopes to betrays us, Kushina said, and Anko couldn't say anything except agreeing with her. Anko then looked at Naruto. Is he? Anko asked, trailing off. Kushina smiled. Yes, he is my baby, my son, my everything, Kushina said, and looked at Anko. Want to hold him? Kushina asked. And no, it's fine, Anko said, but Kushina stretched her arms outward for Anko to hold Naruto. Anko then slowly brought her arms under the bundle with utmost care. She felt afraid that her touch might hurt him. He looked so cute and so delicate. She couldn't hold herself from kissing his forehead. You are the third person to hold Naruto after me and Minato, Kushina said, and Anko nodded in acknowledgement. I feel honored, Anko said, and gave Naruto back to Kushina. Hiruzen was sitting on a chair in his home, thinking. He needed to kill Kushina as soon as possible, and if he fails to kill her then at least he would make her useful for Konoha by incapacitating her, and he was ready to do anything for it. He called an Umbu. Send for Jiraiya to return as soon as possible, Hiruzen said, and the Umbu shined. Let's see what Jiraiya is capable of, and if he alone isn't enough then Danzo and me would help Jiraiya in killing Kushina, he thought and smirked. He is a Fuinjutsu master. If he becomes able to seal her memories or seal her powers then we will involve her in CRA, he smirked evilly. At Uzumaki residence, it was afternoon time and Kushina was still not recovered her natural strength from blood loss and childbirth, so she was feeling weak, but she was still strong enough to take Danzo head on. Kushina was sleeping on her bed while Naruto was nursing her breasts. She was surprised to see that Naruto needed to drink her milk at least 15 hours in 24, so she also needed to eat more and healthy food if she wanted to keep generating milk in her breasts for her baby. Anko was sitting beside the bed on a chair reading a book. Kushina had complied with Anko's request to live with her in Uzumaki residence for a little while. 1 week later, Jiraiya arrived in Konoha. He went straight to his sensei. Jiraiya, I was waiting for you, Hiruzen said, and offered Jiraiya a seat. Sensei, is it true that Minato died and Naruto is the new Jinchuriki of Kyuubi? Jiraiya asked as he sat down on the seat across Hiruzen, and when Hiruzen nodded his world fell apart. Minato was like a son to him, and he died, and his son Naruto was the new Jinchuriki of Kyuubi. What happened to Kushina? She was like a daughter-in-law to him. Sensei, what happened to Kushina? Is she alive? Jiraiya asked, hoping it to be true. Hiruzen's eyes narrowed when he heard the softness in Jiraiya's voice while mentioning Kushina. Jiraiya, Kushina is alive, but Hiruzen said and trailed off. But what, Sensei? Jiraiya asked, getting impatient. Well, after Minato died, we don't know what happened. She went berserk and turned into a beast and killed many shinobis and civilians alike and destroyed Konoha more than Kyuubi, Hiruzen said, making Jiraiya's eyes widen. Kushina killed so many people. She went berserk because of Minato's death, but Kushina is a strong-willed woman, she is not a weak-minded woman. But it may be possible that she couldn't take both, Minato's death and the fact that Kyuubi was sealed in Naruto. Still killing so many people of Konoha and destroying Konoha more than Kyuubi, she must have controlled herself. Daughter-in-law or not, village would always be first, Jiraiya thought, and obviously he trusted his sensei more than anyone. Jiraiya, it's true, Hiruzen pressed. I trust you, Sensei, but it's hard to believe that a woman like Kushina will lose control and do that despicable act, Jiraiya said, and the fact that he should talk to Kushina about this slipped from his mind. What are you planning to do now, Sensei? Jiraiya asked, now trusting his sensei completely. Hiruzen smirked. We will have to incapacitate or kill Kushina because we don't know when would she go berserk again, and we will have to secure Naruto in our hands, and you are the only one who can do it. And we don't want any more casualties, Hiruzen said, and Jiraiya nodded, but killing Kushina seemed a little too much since he had considered her his daughter-in-law. Incapacitating her would be a good idea. Alright, Sensei, we would incapacitate her, Jiraiya said, and they started to make plans. In Uchiha household, Mikoto Uchiha hadn't stopped crying since the incident with Kushina. She hated herself for betraying her best friend. Fugaka had said to her that their son Sasuke might be in danger if she didn't do what was asked to her. And now she regretted that decision. Kushina would have wanted to kill her, and why she would not. After all, she betrayed Kushina in worst way possible. It wasn't like she didn't resist, but she was helpless against her child's safety. She knew if she were to go to Kushina now, she would definitely kill her. What she should do now? She got off the bed she was crying into when she heard the cry of her son Sasuke. Sasuke, for whom she betrayed her best friend. She lifted Sasuke from the crib and hugged him to her bosom and cooed. Itachi had been sent on a long Limbo mission by Hokage. If he had been here, she wouldn't have gone through this and betrayed her friend because he always supported and helped her in any way possible. Mikoto felt suffocation in the room, in that building, so she decided to go out for a walk. She decided that she would go to Kushina with Itachi when he returns and beg for forgiveness. It was evening. Kushina with Naruto in her arms and Anko were sitting in the living room sipping tea and munching on some chips. Kushina looked at Anko. Anko, you will have to go and live in your apartment, Kwahina said while caressing Naruto's hairs. Why? Did I do something to offend you? Anko asked in panic. Kushina smiled. No, Anko, you never did anything to offend me. If you live with me, your life might be in danger. I know how everyone treats you, but we will have to do it. Hokage doesn't know that you are with me, so you will be safe there, and it's not like you can't come here. You can come here anytime you want, Kushina said, and Anko's eyes welled up. She stood up and hugged Kushina, and Kushina returned the hug. Okay, Anko said, and went to gather her belongings. When Anko went to her apartment, Kushina sat on her bed with Naruto sleeping beside her. She looked at the ceiling. So Jiraiya has come. What is the possibility that he would betray me? 100% she thought, and then a demonic smirk formed on her beautiful and angelic face. After her transformation, she had become more beautiful and her facial features became more attractive and luscious. Her red lips became more delicious. Her body had become more voluptuous and her breasts, even though her breasts were producing milk for her baby, they were firmer and gravity didn't have any effect on her boobs and they became larger than D-cups. Her skin had a lush glow in it. Overall, any man would ruin their underwear, just from a look of her. Well, from where should I start? From Hiruzen or that Obito? She muttered, then her eyes turned to Naruto's sleeping form. Well, I guess I should start from Hiruzen and Danzo. I can't be careless even for a minute. I need to stay alert at every moment, she thought. She sighed. She can't stay alert for potential dangers if Naruto take her full attention. It's impossible for me to relax in this disgusting village, she said to herself, and then an idea came to her. She would make a special blood clone with several modifications of her own, and that clone would do everything for her, which could have only be done by separating Naruto from herself, and that clone would take care of the danger alert issues and tell her if something is wrong. And then without worry she would train Naruto in everything that she could. She couldn't stop herself from smiling widely and lovingly at her son. She kissed his forehead and faded off into a sleep with her baby boy in her arms. Next day, Kushina made a blood clone with several modifications just as she wanted. This blood clone was made using 5 elements which were the main constituents of every living being's body. She had put several seals on her clone. One to transfer information from her clone to herself every day. Second seal was like an on and off switch, and only she knew where it was. Using these features, Kushina could make her sleep and work whenever she wanted. The clone would not dispel even if it gets severely wounded. It would die like a normal human. Only Kushina could dispel it, if she wanted. She ordered clone to behave like she was original Kushina so that the clone could go out and keep an eye on everyone and also will do every housework while Kushina will concentrate on Naruto. The Uzumaki residence had a large forest-like establishment behind the house. It was separated from the house with a large glass wall. The forest had 10-foot-high fencing around it, separating it from remaining land. The Uzumaki forest had an onsen and a pool for swimming and other purposes. Kushina looked at the scene and sighed. She will have to leave this amazing place. Why don't I teleport it to Uzumaki Shrine, she thought and smirked. Now she only has to wait till evening. If Hiruzen made any move, then she would kill him, and if not, then tomorrow she would kill him herself. Suddenly she sensed Jiraiya's chakra nearby, and after 1 minute her doorbell rung. She looked at her clone. I am going to the bedroom. It will be your first testing. The things you need to remember are, don't trust anyone and be careful of Jiraiya. He might have betrayed us already, Kushina instructed to her clone and went upstairs to the bedroom. The clone Kushina went to open the door. Clone opened the door and saw that Jiraiya was standing there with flowers in his hands with a stupid grin on his face. He made a gesture to hug Kushina, but she stopped him with her palm touching his chest. You have come after a long time, Kushina asked without any emotions on her face. Well, I was busy with my research. Anyway, are you going to invite me inside or will keep me standing here? Jiraiya said, trying to take a look inside. Kushina then ushered him inside and to the couch. Jiraiya's features then became somber. So, Minato, he trailed off. Yeah, he died, Kushina said, looking to the side. Though he knew how it happened from Hiruzen, but he thought of asking Kushina. How did Minato die? Jiraiya asked and inspected Kushina's body language closely. Kushina sighed sadly. He summoned Shinigami and sealed the Kyuubi in Naruto, and she trailed off, faking like she couldn't say it. She was smirking inside, seeing Jiraiya's shocked face. She knew what he was doing. Jiraiya was confused. Originally, he had thought that Kushina would at least become angry when he mentions Minato's death. But she was calm and taking it well. Then it clicked in his mind, she was mentally sick. He felt an ounce of sadness, but his mind became clear when the question of Konoha's safety invaded his mind and his will hardened to do what was necessary. I wanted to see him with his son growing up, Jiraiya said, looking down. Kushina sighed again but didn't say anything. Jiraiya looked at Kushina. He needed to send Kushina somewhere if he wanted to put some spying and chakra restriction seals there. Where's Naruto? I want to see my godson, Jiraiya said, smiling sadly. Yeah, it might work. Kushina would go to bring Naruto, and that would give me a chance, he thought. Kushina mirrored Jiraiya's sad smile and nodded, but instead of going herself, Kushina's under-testing clone made another clone and sent the clone to fetch Naruto. Jiraiya cursed Kushina inwardly. His little plan failed. The clone entered in the bedroom and told original Kushina everything. Kushina nodded. Okay, I will go in place of you. Jiraiya would never be able to sense that there are other Kushinas too in this home because this room is filled with several suppressing and chakra resistance seals against any outer element, be it a human or their senses, Kushina said to her clone, and lifting Naruto in her arms went downstairs. Jiraiya stood up as he saw the baby in Kushina's hands. Kushina adjusted Naruto in her arms in a way that Jiraiya could look at Naruto's full features. Jiraiya's eyes glistened when he saw Naruto's sleeping form. He moved towards Kushina to hold Naruto, but as he stretched his arms towards Naruto, Kushina turned to the side. I am sorry, Jiraiya-sensei, but I had just made Naruto sleep, so I don't want him to wake up, Kushina said, turning towards Jiraiya again. Jiraiya's eyes widened. He could clearly see that Kushina didn't wanted him to hold Naruto. Did she realize about what he was planning? He stood straight. His posture changed, and seeing this, Kushina's senses became alarmed. Then the clone Kushina interjected. You, take Naruto back to the room, she said, and original Kushina nodded and started to move, but suddenly, Kushina's senses started to feel several chakra signatures outside of the house. She knew they won't be able to enter the house because of the barrier, but Jiraiya was in front of her, and he was a prodigy in Fuinjutsu. Kushina guessed that if they succeeded in breaking the barrier, then it would be because of Jiraiya. Either he had done something or he had some plan to make the oncoming intruder's entry easy. Suddenly it clicked in her mind. Widening her eyes, shit, she cursed inwardly. Minato and Kushina had made the barrier together, and though Kushina was a master, and she had said to Minato not to take advice from anyone, but still Minato went and asked Jiraiya, and that advice in the past could have worked as a loophole in the barrier arrays. She immediately shunned Shine to the bedroom and put several seals in a matter of seconds to stop any infiltration in the room. She changed her cloths and wore her ninja dress and filled her pockets with necessary weapons. She also took several trilong kunais that she could use in Hiraishin. She wrapped Naruto in a large cloth and tied him to her bosom in a way that it would not affect her fighting, and if Naruto felt hungry, it would be easy to feed him. She made a hand seal and teleported. Downstairs, the clone Kushina was looking at Jiraiya. Jiraiya, she trailed off. Jiraiya looked at Kushina. Kushina, if you cooperate, I promise you that you will be safe, and I will ask Sensei to alter your punishment and hand Naruto over to us, Jiraiya said, and narrowed his eyes when Kushina started to chuckle. Why are you chuckling? Jiraiya asked, confused. Jiraiya, did you really think I would surrender, and why should I surrender? It's this Konoha that's at fault here, and I will not tolerate anyone who tries to separate Naruto from me, Kushina said, and pulled out a kunai from now here. Do you think you can take all of us, me, Sensei, Hayashi, and Fugaku? Kushina sighed. Well, I can try, and it's not like they can break the barrier, she said, and waited for the answer. Jiraiya smirked. Well, you are in a big surprise if you think that they can't cross the barrier. You don't know, but Minato took advice from me in almost everything. I just hope that he will come to me for advice about what to do for your first night as husband and wife. Well, anyway, only you and I are here, Jiraiya said, and pulled a kunai. Well, let's start then. What are we waiting for? Clone Kushina said, and took the stance. and next moment the front wall of Uzumaki residence exploded and revealed three figures as Hiruzen, Hayashi, and Fugaku. Kushina noticed that they were in their battle suit. Kushina glared at the three new arrivals with fire in her eyes. Kushina promised to herself that if not all of them, then one or two of them would die from her hands today. Her golden chains emerged from her back and hovering in the air pointed them towards all of them like a spider net. The clone Kushina closed her eye. Her priority target was Hiruzen, then others. Jiraiya threw his kunai at Kushina and Kushina swatted it away like a fly using her chain. She still hadn't opened her eyes. She smirked wide and like before, she stretched her right hand outward and using her index finger motioned them to attack. "Bring it on," she said in a deep and low voice. The group of four then charged their respective attacks. Hiruzen summoned Enma and the monkey transformed into a staff. Fugaku activated his Sharingan and started to prepare his most powerful genjutsu. Hayashi also activated his Byakugan. Jiraiya activated his Sage mode, but as he tried to move, his body paralyzed, his chakra flow in his body stopped but not enough to let him die. He fell down on the floor. Hiruzen looked at Jiraiya with wide eyes, and then looked at Kushina with fury. "What the hell did you do to him, you bitch?" Hiruzen shouted. Kushina heard the insult but didn't say anything, and next moment Hiruzen blocked an adamant golden chain in the nick of time, and saved his head from piercing. Hayashi rushed towards Kushina and Kushina sent 4 chains towards him and engaged him in a fierce taijutsu battle with his chains, and those were chains so most of his techniques didn't work and it was impossible for him to break the thick chains, though if he used his most powerful attack then he might be able to destroy her chains, but only if she gave him time to do so. He continued to struggle against the chains. Hiruzen saw Hayashi and nodded to himself. Fugaku was still busy in preparing. Hiruzen then made a hand seal and shot several flame bullets at Kushina, but she blocked all the flame bullets. Hiruzen then rushed towards Kushina with his staff, and when he reached close to Kushina he jumped and brought his staff from up to down on her head, but Kushina blocked his staff with her chain and punched Hiruzen in the face, which sent him flying back, but when Hiruzen was in the air Kushina wrapped her chain in his ankle and with force smashed his body in the ground, shattering the floor. Hiruzen coughed blood. Kushina then lifted Hiruzen and swung him in the air, and with his body she hit Hayashi, who was still idiotically struggling with several of her chains. Hayashi and Hiruzen both went hurtling into a wall, and the force of impact made a crater in the wall, and cracked the whole wall. "Come on, Hiruzen, is this your best shot and you call yourself Hokage? It would be better if I take your position," Kushina said to Hiruzen, who was lying on the ground under Hayashi. Both of them were bleeding from their head. Kushina then looked towards Fugaku. Using one of her chains she hit him on the side of his head and sent him spinning in the ground. Then she noticed Hiruzen and Hayashi stood up. They both looked to each other and nodded, and both rushed toward Kushina with blinding speeds 10 times more than before, and they caught Kushina off guard. Hiruzen's staff hit Kushina flat in the stomach and sent her several feet in the air. While in the air Hayashi was waiting for her, and he hit Kushina's clone with his gentle fist and sent her downward in the ground, shattering the tiles and making a large crater in Uzumaki Residence's living room's floor. Then Hiruzen shouted, "Fire release! Fire dragon head!" Both of his hands stretched outwards and a large dragon head shot out from his palms and went soaring in the crater Kushina was in and exploded in the crater, making the living room fill with the fire, heat and smoke. As the fire was about to dissipate, Fugaku shouted, "Fire release! Great fireball jutsu!" and threw it in the crater, making the dissipating fire explode again in a fierce explosion. Hiruzen, Hayashi and Fugaku waited for the fire to dissipate again, but before the fire could dissipate again, 3 red chains, lava dripping from them, shot from the fire and pierced Fugaku's leg, Hayashi's shoulder, and Hiruzen, at the last moment, was able to dodge it, but still the chain left a large gash on his arm. A Kushina wrapped in chains came out of the fire. Her cloths had burned and chains were the only part that turned into the part of her other transformation. A dangerous look on her face, and her violet eyes were shining, making them more demonic. Hiruzen then made a hand sign and a swamp appeared where Kushina was standing, and Kushina started to sink in the ground. Hiruzen then made another hand sign and the swamp froze, making Kushina immobile. Hiruzen ran forward with his highest speed in attempt to take advantage of her condition and catch her off guard again. Hiruzen disappeared and appeared in front of Kushina and swung his staff to break Kushina's legs, but as the staff was about to connect her legs, a chain blocked the path of the staff, stopping its velocity. Kushina used her lava-dripping chains to break the frozen swamp, and using her chains as a support came out of the ground and landed on solid ground, but as she landed, she found herself face to face with Hayashi, who then hit her with gentle fist and blocked her chakra pathway system, but not enough to kill her. Then Hayashi used his 8 trigrams vacuum palm and sent Kushina's clone in the wall, but the attack had so much force that the wall couldn't stop her trajectory and shattered and Kushina went through several walls before stopping to a halt. Kushina was outside now. Her chains had disappeared and she lay there motionless, all bloodied and battered. After some moments she opened her eyes and saw that her three opponents were standing, towering over her, but as she tried to stand up, Fugaku put his foot her chest, forcing her down. Then next moment Fugaku's face was inches away from Kushina's, and Kushina's clone's eyes widened when she saw the red eyes of Fugaku, showing that his Mangekyo Sharingan was activated. His eyes looked intensely in hers and captured her in a painful genjutsu. Not so strong now, hun. Where did your strength go now, you whore? Now stay in my genjutsu and see your son dying again and again, Fugaku said, and put more force on his foot, and for a second he noticed how large her breasts were, but next second he shook the thought. He turned to Hokage and Hayashi, who were still panting. Now, fight is over, Hokage-sama, Fugaku said, and looked at Kushina again. There was a time when Fugaku lusted over Kushina, but she loved Minato. He had thought that she was a lone Uzumaki. He had sometimes insinuated his feelings, but she, being the blockhead she was, always beat him, and he ended in hospital. Now was a chance for him. He looked at Hokage. Hokage-sama, you can have her, son, but I am the one who defeated her, so I would keep her for a while, and when I am done, you can do whatever you want with her, Fugaku said, and Hiruzen nodded. Fugaku then laughed insanely, but they didn't realize the impending doom coming towards them with a sonic speed. In the genjutsu, Kushina had tears pouring out of her like a river, and she had a horror-struck look on her face, and she didn't have any shred of cloths on her. In front of her was her son Naruto on the ground, and near him were Hiruzen, Fugaku, Hayashi. They all were stabbing and kicking Naruto, continuously, with insane and crazy smirks on their faces and laughing sickly. Kushina's clone thrashed against the chains she was bounded to. She was helpless, and with every stab in her son, she was feeling like someone was crushing her heart with their fingers, and the crying of her baby boy was just making her desperately wish to die. Then suddenly she saw a light shining from behind the horrible scene, and the scene faded from her sight. Then the light engulfed everything. The clone Kushina opened her eyes, only to see original Kushina looking at her, and tears started to stream down again from the clone Kushina's eyes. Earlier, when Kushina teleported, the original Kushina had teleported to Enko's apartment, startling her from her sudden appearance. Enko would have said something funny, but when she saw the serious face of Kushina, she also became serious. What happened, Kushina-sama? Enko asked with worry etching in her voice. Kushina put a hand on Enko's shoulder. Enko, Hiruzen with Fugaku, Hayashi and Jiraiya has attacked the Uzumaki residence, and my clone is fighting with them right now, Kushina said, and Enko's eyes widened. Then let's go and fight them, Enko said with a little something akin to fear. After all, they were against Hokage, a Sannin, and two powerful clan leaders. Kushina looked at Enko. I want you to think one more time before taking this step, because it will change your life upside down. Your life would be in danger at every moment, so think before making any haste, Kushina said to Enko. She didn't want Enko to regret later because of any hastily made decisions. Enko closed her eyes, then opened. Kushina-sama, the moment when everyone scorned me but you, I decided at that moment that I would die for you if you asked me to, because you gave me the light in the darkness, Enko said with her heart. Kushina smiled and closing her eyes shook her head. Okay, I want you to take Naruto to Uzumaki Shrine near the village and stay there, and Enko her off, but I don't know the way. I never went there or in that direction, Enko said and looked down ashamedly. Kushina sighed. Okay, come with me, Kushina said and grabbed Enko's hand, and before Enko could say anything, Kushina teleported them outside the village. Then Kushina and Enko ran towards the shrine. There was no teleport seal near the shrine, so they had to run. Kushina took a look at Naruto, and she shook her head again. Naruto was nursing on her breasts whole time. They reached to Uzumaki Shrine in 10 minutes. The shrine was simple, just like any other typical shrine. It had a gate with an Uzumaki symbol inscribed at the top. But it was on the verge of collapsing. Kushina and Enko entered in the shrine. Kushina didn't stop for anything. She went straight for the deepest room in the shrine, and when she reached there, she entered in the room. The room was normal, a simple and small bed, a table and a chair with a bookcase near the table. Kushina looked at Enko. Stay here with Naruto until I return, and if someone comes, then kill them and protect Naruto at any cost, Kushina said, and Enko nodded, but Kushina kept staring in Enko's eyes, making her uncomfortable. Enko, I am handing you my one and only life in your hands. Don't lose it, Kushina said, and Enko nodded with determination. I will die before let anything happen to Naruto, Enko said, and Kushina shook her head. Idiot, don't die. Okay, Kushina said, and Enko's eyes widened, and because of sheer emotion she couldn't say anything, just nodded furiously. Kushina unfastened the piece of cloths which was holding Naruto to her bosom. Then she looked at Naruto, suckling his breast milk. She smiled and slowly separated him from her breast and covered it. Naruto whimpered, but Kushina cooed and calmed him down. Kushina looked at Naruto and smiled. Naruto, Mama has to go and punish some bad guys who tried to kill your mama, but don't worry, I will be back soon, before you get hungry again. You will be with your big sis Anko, okay, so be a good boy, Kushina said to Naruto, and the baby Naruto just smiled and motioned his hands in the air. Kushina smiled warmly, and kissed his forehead and both cheeks. For a second she thought to take Naruto with her, but reluctantly she stretched her arms outward and handed Naruto to Anko. Anko then nodded to Kushina and Kushina to Anko, don't go out of this room, okay? I will put some seals in this room so no one would be able to sense your chakras. This would be my final fight with Konoha probably. I have bring Naruto here because there's a risk that Hiruzen's umbus may attack my baby while I fight those four, Kushina said to Anko, who nodded. Kushina then turned and left. She teleported to a mark in front of the Uzumaki residence. She had made several modifications in the original Hiraishin to teleport to longer distance, and faster than before and at the cost of minimal chakra. She hadn't even told Minato about the modifications in it because she wanted to beat him umpteenth time in a spar using it. She appeared in front of her house and her eyes widened when she saw half-collapsed Uzumaki residence. She gritted her teeth in unbridled rage and her eyes turned whitish with red tints in it. She wanted to teleport that house to Uzumaki Shrine and live in it with her son. She ran towards the location, with a speed more than speed of light, tearing the wind and making vacuum behind her and leaving air ripples in the air. Kushina's blood boiled when she saw the sight of Fugaku's foot on her clone's breasts. She closed the distance in moments and without stopping gave a ferocious punch to Fugaku's face, shattering his jaw immediately and sent him soaring through many houses and their walls, trolleys, shops and then half-built Hokage Tower, collapsing it again, and struck the Hokage monument wall and made a large crater in the wall. He got hit in the wall so fast and with such a force that it cracked the third's face and fell down on the ground. Fugaku went into unconscious mode immediately. His whole body was broken. His legs, his arms, his stomach, his ribs, his lungs, his head, his jaw was hanging down. His whole body was bleeding profusely, but he was still alive and unconscious. Kushina looked at her clone and immediately lifted her head in her lap. She narrowed her eyes. She is in a genjutsu, Kushina deduced, and immediately break the genjutsu. Clone Kushina opened her eyes gradually, and when she saw original Kushina her eyes welled up. Kushina shook her head and placed her hand on her clone's forehead where she had drawn the information transfer seal, and all that happened came to Kushina, and when she saw the scene of genjutsu, a tear trickled down her cheeks. Kushina wiped the lone tear and looked at her clone. I should have known that your body would be weak after so many modifications in you to make you just like a human, but you did great, Kushina said to her clone and smiled. The clone also smiled also. So how did my testing go, boss? Did I pass, clone Kushina asked to original, who smiled. You passed with good grades, Kushina said, and clone nodded. Well, I will have to dispel you now, Kushina said, closing her eyes. Clone Kushina sighed. She had taken severe damage, and it would be a waste of time to treat her like an injured human. Kushina would just make another clone. I can understand, clone said, closing her eyes. But before I dispel you, I would like you to see what I would do now, because like me you were also Naruto's mother even for a short time, Kushina said, and clone nodded. Kushina stood up and turned towards Hiruzen and Hayashi. The civilians who were cheering after they saw clone Kushina down under Uchiha's foot were now in a panic and started to disperse. The demonic look on Kushina's face sent chill to their bodies, and they started to tremble. Her pupil-less and iris-less eyes looked in Hiruzen's, penetrating his soul. The red markings started to form on her cheeks, and her hairs became longer and bloodier. Hiruzen and Hayashi were trembling, but inside they were trying to calm down. It never came to their mind, and they never felt that they were fighting a clone. She was like a complete human. Suddenly another presence appeared there as Danzo, and as he looked at Kushina he also became serious. Danzo's presence gave Hiruzen and Hayashi the morale support, and they calmed down. Kushina was emitting a black and red aura which accentuated her features as a demoness. Now everyone was there, every clan heads, civilians, shinobis and Mikoto with Sasuke. Red-hot chains emerged from her back and pointed towards Danzo, Hiruzen and Hayashi. Then an idea came to her. She wanted them to kill with her hands, so she retracted her chains and made 2 clones and said to handle Danzo and Hayashi. The clones turned towards Hayashi and Danzo, and several chains emerged from their backs and went soaring to them and engaged them in a fierce taijutsu battle. The speed of chains was so much that Hayashi and Danzo started to have problems and went on defensive. Kushina nodded before turning towards Hiruzen, whose eyes were wide because he understood what was about to happen, a one-on-one battle between Hiruzen and Kushina. Kushina rushed towards Hiruzen without giving him any chance, and the speed she rushed towards Hiruzen was a sonic speed which was out of reach of any human to perceive. She punched him in the stomach and sent him hurtling back into a wall, but the wall couldn't take the force of the pressure of the hit, and shattered, and Hiruzen continued his trajectory. Suddenly Kushina was above him, and brought her leg downward and hit Hiruzen in the chest, and sent him in the ground, making a large crater. Kushina didn't wait for him to come out, for water orbs appeared in front of her and shot 4 concentrated water stream at jet speed in the crater, making it more deep, and the 4 jet streams of water hit Hiruzen's legs and hands, making holes in them. He cried out in pain. She didn't wait, and a fire orb appeared in front of her, and a stream of fire shot in the crater, exploding it. After the dust cleared, Hiruzen was barely conscious. She came down in the crater, which was 5 feet deep and several meters of radius. She fell directly on Hiruzen's stomach and making him cough more blood. She then stood up and took a look at Hiruzen. He was bleeding from every part of his body. He couldn't even ask for help from Hayashi and Danzo because his windpipe was destroyed. Kushina lifted him by his neck. So how it is feeling, huh? You just showed your power to my clone. Now what happened? Show me your power. Show me, damn it, Kushina shouted in anger and smashed his body in the wall. Suddenly Kushina felt several chakra signatures behind her. She turned and saw that they were Hokage's personal Anbu. She smirked. Do you guys want something, she said, and they all rushed towards her, but as they took one step, every one of Anbu had a red lava dripping chain in their heart or head. They all fell down dead. Kushina sighed. Just a waste of time, she said, and turned to Hiruzen. A chain came out of her back and went near Hiruzen. Well, go to hell, Hiruzen, Kushina said, and pierced his chest. She lifted his pierced body by the same chain, and walked to the location everyone was and threw his body on the ground. Hokage is dead, Kushina announced, and enjoyed the look on everyone's face. Tsum, Shikaku and Chuza had their eyes widen. Civilians started to back away in fear and ran to their houses. Kushina then turned to her clone, who just was about to dispel, and dispelled. The moment the clone disappeared, Hayashi took a breath of relief, but next second he found a claw enclosing his neck. Then the claw clamped on his neck and threw him in the ground face first, and suddenly she felt someone behind her, and her instincts kicked in, and she tilted her head to the side, and next moment a blade appeared on the place her head was just moments ago. Kushina immediately caught the blade in her claws and flung the owner in front of her. It was Danzo. As he landed in front of Kushina, a chain wrapped around his neck and started to burn the skin of his neck. Kushina looked at Hayashi, who were in her claws. She lifted his head and slammed it in the ground again and again, and soon after 4th or 5th flump his face was impossible to identify. He was already unconscious and on the verge of dying. She lifted him and threw him where dead Hiruzen was lying. Whole Hyuga clan, Uchiha clan, Inuzuka clan, Akimichi, and several other clans were there, but no one dared to say anything to Kushina. They all watched in silence. Kushina then looked at Danzo and raised an eyebrow. Are you dead or still alive? Kushina asked, and Danzo tried to speak but couldn't. He wanted to use replacement jutsu, but he was unable to mold any chakra due to the immense pain caused by the burning of his neck. Kushina sighed. Let me put you out of your misery, Kushina said, and slammed him on the ground and went to him. You know, you are the most stupid person I have ever seen after Hiruzen. I had been already a loyal ninja of Konoha, and like me Naruto would have been too, but no. You wanted to kill me and keep Naruto for yourself and for your selfish reasons, and see where it has brought you. Well, go and meet your companions in hell, Kushina said, and lodged a chain in his beating heart, killing him and throwing him where Hiruzen was. Kushina took a look around her, and saw that everyone has a fearful look on their faces. She noticed that there was no civilian. She sighed and went to her clone, who nodded. Kushina closed her eyes and dispelled the clone. She looked towards the Hyuga clan members. Hizashi was standing in front of his clan members, with tears in his eyes. Kushina then teleported to where Fugaku was and then teleported back to where everyone was. She threw Fugaku's body on the ground and shouted, medics. Several men and women came forward. Heal this scum right now, enough to make him conscious again, she ordered, and the medics started to work out of fear. After 15 minutes intense healing, Fugaku opened his eyes and Mikoto, who was holding Sasuke, couldn't stop coming out, in front of the crowd. Kushina smirked seeing this. Wow, Mikoto, I didn't expect you to be here. No, I was wrong to not expect you here. But really, I didn't think you would come in front of me again after betraying me, Kushina yelled in anger, and sent a chain towards Mikoto, but Itachi appeared in front of Mikoto, and Kushina stopped the chain barely. Kushina narrowed her eyes, but before she could say anything, Itachi spoke. Sorry, Kushina-sama, and shined away with his mother and brother. Kushina sighed and turned to Fugaku, who was now fully conscious. So are you ready to feel the same torture my clone went through in your genjutsu? And what did you say you will give me to Hiruzen when you are finished with me? Kushina said angrily. Her eyes was now redder than before, and seeing this Fugaku's eyes widened in shock. But you know, I am wondering, what should I make you see in the genjutsu? I'm cutting your hands and legs and other body parts, or someone from your family, like a Mikoto sleeping with your clansmen. Nah, I am a woman too, I have a soft heart. I won't do that to any other woman, but then what would you say about Itachi hanging from ceiling or Sasuke's head in your dinner plate, she said, and looked at Fugaku, who had a horrible and disgusting look on his face. He had saliva and blood dripping from his open mouth. Kushina shrunk her nose in disgust. It seems that you just started to get tortured just from my creative ideas, but anyway, only one fate is awaiting you now, and that is death. Go and meet your companions in hell, Kushina said, and grabbed his head in her claws and applied so much force that it exploded and the blood splattered on Kushina. She threw Fugaku's headless body to the heap of other dead bodies of Hiruzen and Danzo. Then suddenly she remembered something and her eyes widened. I forgot about Jiraiya. Shit, she muttered and shuned to where Jiraiya was but didn't find anyone there. Damn it, he escaped, but how? I am sure someone must have helped him. It was impossible for him to escape that seal, she muttered to herself. There is no one left in the village that could free him, that means it must have been outsiders, she said to herself, and shrugged. She would kill him next time. She shined back to where everyone was. She looked towards the crowd. If any of you tried to do anything against me, my son or someone I care about, then their fate would be like these scums, Kushina shouted. She looked at Hizashi. Hizashi, she called, and he looked at her in fear. Why, yes, he stuttered. Kushina sighed and her features softened. Her demonic features faded, leaving her original features. She looked at Hizashi. He was also holding his son, and his wife was standing behind him in fear. Come here, she said in a normal tone. Hizashi came to her on trembling legs. Kushina put a hand on his shoulder. Your brother is still alive. Take him to hospital, Kushina said, and looked at the blue-haired child Hizashi's wife was holding. I know he has a daughter, and I wouldn't want her to be raised without her father, whereas her mother is already dead, Kushina said, and Hizashi had a greatly surprised look on his face. What, I am not heartless. Now go before he dies, Kushina said. Hizashi nodded and thanked Kushina before going to his brother. Kushina then looked around and noticed that there were only 3 people left in the area, Tsum and Shikaku and Kushina herself. Tsum looked at Kushina and smiled, then said, Well, what now? You killed Hokage and now this village is without a leader to lead it, Tsum said. Kushina sighed. Well, I don't really care about this village, and Shikaku cut her off. But I care. I don't know about anyone, but I care about the village because we are living and serving this village for a very long time now, and we were born here. I can't turn on my village, so I care, Shikaku said, and Kushina could understand his feelings. Kushina sighed umpteenth time that day and said, Well, it's in your hands what you do with the village, and started to turn to go away, but Tsum stopped her. Where are you going, she asked. To my son, Kushina replied. She couldn't wait to hold her son to her bosom, and she chuckled when a thought came to her mind that just as she would take him in her arms to her bosom, he will start nursing her breasts again. She shook her head smiling and teleported to Uzumaki Shrine. Around 6 o'clock in the evening, Uchiha Itachi and Uchiha Mikoto were sitting in Mikoto's room. Mikoto was crying from the time Itachi brought her in Uchiha compound. They just got informed that Fugaku died and elders wanted a meeting to select a new leader for the clan. Itachi had postponed the meeting for a later time. Mikoto didn't care about the fact that Fugaku died. He deserved it, she knew, and she wanted to talk to Kushina, but Itachi didn't let her. She even lashed out on Itachi in anger, but then broke down in tears. She knew Itachi did the right thing because Kushina would have killed her at that time if Itachi hadn't brought her back. She decided to go to Kushina next day when Kushina would be calmer state. She had her face in the pillow, which was damp from her tears, and Sasuke was sleeping in the crib. Itachi was watching his mother crying her eyes out in the pillow. His mother was a proud kunoichi, and now she was reduced to a pathetic human who was wallowing in the tears she herself was the cause of. Itachi stood up and went to his mother. He was 12 years old and 4.8 feet of height. He lifted his mother and hugged her to his chest tightly, and the act just made her cry even harder. After half an hour later, when she calmed down, Itachi broke the hug, but Mikoto tightened her hold on him. Let me stay like this for a little longer. I don't want to stay alone, Mikoto said, and buried her head in his umbu vest, which was now damp from her tears. Itachi was surprised at first, but then complied with his mother's request. After all, at the moment, he was the only one Mikoto could turn to for comfort. Tomorrow, we will go to Kushina-sama and ask for her forgiveness, Itachi said, and reluctantly started to rub her mother's back with one hand and second in her hairs, massaging her hairs to comfort her. Mikoto looked upward at Itachi. Thank you, Itachi. Thank you very much, Mikoto said, and Itachi shook his head. Don't worry about it, he said, and Mikoto placed her head back to his chest and dozed off from the exhaustion of crying. They stayed in that position for a while, and Itachi felt his mother's breath became even. He lay her down on the bed and kissed her forehead, and went out. An unknown location. Really, a red-haired man said to a masked man? They both were wearing black cloaks with red clouds on it. A blue-haired woman was standing beside the blue-haired man. Yeah, and that might be a problem in our goal, the black-haired masked man said to other two occupants. But what you just said, how it could be possible, red-haired man said, running a hand through his hair. I don't know, my mind is still in disarray about what happened. I mean, her speed was like out of this world, and her transformation and all that, masked man said, looking out the window. Red-headed man stared upon the masked man, then after a while broke the silence. Are you sure you yourself were not in a genjutsu? Red-headed asked. Masked man glared at the redhead from his single eye visible. She broke my mask just from her fingers, he said, and looked at the redhead. What you are saying can hinder our plans, the woman said, breaking the silence. The redhead stood up and faced the window masked man was facing just earlier. There isn't anyone who can be an obstacle in our plans. I won't let anyone. I will clear any hindrance, redhead said, and turned and looked at the woman. Conan, keep an eye out for this Kushina woman and the Kyubi Jinchuriki, and if what Madara has said is true, then we need to be more powerful and gather more allies, and I have 2 allies ready to join Akatsuki, redhead said, and looked at Madara. I will bring peace on this land. I will make Yahiko's dream come true, he said, and Madara nodded, smirking inside his mask. Well, then I have something of importance to take care of. I won't be back for 2 days, said the redhead, and turned towards the door. Nagato, Madara called, but stopped when he found himself lodging in a wall held on the neck by Nagato. Nagato had a dangerous glint in his eyes. Madara, if you call me by that name once more, you will not live to see the plan come to fruition. I am Pain, so call me that, or God, Pain said in a deep and authoritative voice, and Madara nodded. I just wanted to say that Hanzo won't be an easy target, Madara said in a suggesting tone. You don't have to worry about that, Pain said, and walked out. Arrogance and overconfidence often cause the people to die, Madara muttered, and teleported using his Kemui. Kushina appeared just outside of the worn-down Uzumaki shrine, and just as she appeared, her eyes widened and a sick feeling started to roll in her gut. She could smell the blood inside the shrine. She immediately bolted inside, and a look of relief appeared on her face when she saw Anko and Naruto playing, and her eyes narrowed when she saw 4 bodies lying dead outside of the room, which had been secured by security seals. Anko noticed her presence. Kushina-sama. Anko trailed off. Anko, what happened here? Kushina asked, slightly worried as she entered the room and sat down in a chair. Anko handed Naruto to Kushina, and as if he knew who the person was, he started to cry. Kushina sighed and tried to calm Naruto. She was covered in blood. She needed to take a bath. She lifted her top and started to feed Naruto and looked at Anko, asking for explanation. 10 minutes after you went out, 4 Root Umbu came, but because of the barrier they couldn't enter the room, but one of them was an Earth user and he was able to enter. So I decided that it would be better if I go out and handle them. Anko told her what happened. Are you all right? Kushina asked, and Anko nodded. Well, I think we should take a bath. We both are covered in blood, Kushina said, and looked at Naruto, who was nursing on her breasts, as if the stench of blood didn't affect him. Where would we bath? Will we have to go back to Konoha, or we have something of use here? Anko inquired. Kushina thought for a moment. I guess there should be a hot spring in the back of the shrine. Let's go check it out, Kushina said, and getting up from the chair walked out to the backyard, and surely there was a hot spring. It needed a bit cleaning though. Leave it to me, Anko said to Kushina, who nodded. Anko made 4 clones, and they started to work. After half hour the hot spring was ready to get splashed. Kushina lay Naruto down on the edge of the onsen on the several layers of cloths to make it cushioning. She removed her cloths and entered the onsen and sat down near Naruto. Ah, it feels great. Kushina relaxed in the onsen, and putting a hand on Naruto's head, closed her eyes. What happened in the village? Anko asked. Kushina looked at the sky and closed her eyes. Hokage, Danzo and Fugaku are dead, Kushina said without any emotion, and opening her eyes looked at Anko. And who's going to be the new Hokage? Anko asked, as if the news didn't affect her. I don't know and I don't care, and if you want to know then you will have to go to Konoha, Kushina said, and started to wash her body. So you are going to stay here for a while, then we'll depart for Yuzushiogakure? Anko asked, and Kushina nodded. Kushina looked at Anko when she became silent and noticed she had a frown and was thinking something. She put a hand on her shoulder. Don't worry, I will be in contact with you. I am working on a communication seal so that anyone could talk to each other no matter where they are, Kushina said, and smiled as Anko's face lit up when she heard it. Really? She asked with excitement in her voice. Yeah, but it's still incomplete, and I am sure I will complete it before I left. Until then you can visit me here whenever you want, Kushina said, and Anko smiled happily and nodded. I think you need to go now. It's dusk already, Kushina said, and Anko nodded. I will come tomorrow, Anko said, and got out of the onsen. She got dressed and giving Naruto a kiss on his forehead and walked out. Kushina turned over to Naruto and started to play with him. Half of her body was in the water. After a while she came out and looked around and obviously no one was around, so she discarded her cloths, but it was an open hot spring so precaution was necessary, but she decided to ignore it for time being and lifting Naruto walked towards the rooms. She lay Naruto on the bed. I need to shift my bed and my and Naruto's cloths here, she said to herself, and wore her old cloths and her stomach growled from hunger. She sighed and lifted Naruto and decided to go to Konoha to bring food and other items. It was already dark so no one could see her. She appeared near the collapsed Uzumaki building. The front and half of the house was totally destroyed. She made her way inside and upstairs. Fortunately, the master bedroom and Naruto's room was okay. Their doors were crippled, but the items inside was okay. She entered in her room and opened a large scroll and started to seal the items. The king-size bed, chairs, couches, and kitchen utensils, and then she emptied all her wardrobe in the scroll, sealing all her cloths. Then she started to seal Naruto's toys and clothes, and it took her around 2 hours. She then came out and henged herself and bought kitchen grocery items and sealed them in another scroll. Then she remembered something and made her way towards the central bank of Konoha. It's around 8 o'clock, so the bank would be closed. That's in my favor, she surmised, and shined to the bank and appeared in front of the bank and picking the lock entered inside. She checked her bank book. Her and Nanato's account had enough money to live their whole life without working. She entered in the lockers and treasury section and collected her money and wrote a note for bank manager with her name and account number, which also told that the money has been taken by the rightful owner. She came out and locked it back and made her way back to the shrine. There she chose the last innermost room for the master bedroom. It was large enough. She unsealed the bed and clothes and placed them at the right places. She came out and in the hall unsealed all couches and chairs. She then went in a room which she chose to use as a kitchen and unsealing all stuff, put them in order. She was finished at 12 in the night or midnight. She wiped the sweat off her forehead and unfastened the cloth Naruto was wrapped in and lay him on the couch and sat beside him. She removed her cloths except her underwear and donned a white net gown which has buttons on the front so that she wouldn't have any problem to breastfeed Naruto. She lifted Naruto and in her arms again and started to breastfeed him. She sighed and leaned back on the couch and looked at the ceiling, thinking about what she should do now, and after some minutes she dozed off. Next day she woke up and noticed that it was bright outside. She looked at the clock and sighed. It was 10 am. Laying Naruto on the couch, she stood up and leaving a clone behind went to freshen up. She sent one clone to make a heavy breakfast. After having breakfast she went out and made 10 clones. I want a 15 feet high fence surrounding 1 kilometer area around the shrine and put security seals I haven't discussed with Minato, and do it as soon as possible, and I want the surrounding area clean, she said, and the clone saluted with a yes, boss. Kushin nodded and went inside to have a bath with Naruto in the onsen. After the bath and bathing Naruto, she sat in the living room or hall and started to work on the new security seals and made a clone and ordered her to work on the communication seal she was working on. After 8 long hours she finished the seal. She made a very unique, never-seen-before seal. The seal had 5 parts. The one, which was the main, would be placed at the center of shrine or any other building, and other 4 parts would be placed at 4 corners of the building. The main feature of this seal was Kushina would be able to edit it anytime she wanted, and other features were to detect any living being, which has chakra, enter in seal protected area. And if she wanted to make the entry restricted to everyone, then it will work like a solid wall, and Kushina had included one more feature in it. If anyone tries to enter forcefully or tries to find any counter seal, then it will automatically burn that person to ashes. The most important feature of the seal was that it secured the area from all 6 sides. She also decided to make some danger signs with the seal. She named it Micro Security Seal, since it would even detect even the ants. Now she just needed to wait till the fence completes. She leaned back and looked at the communication seal which her clone had finished a while ago. The calm seal was made to wear on the back of the hand. It was based on nature chakra. The communication would take place between 2 individuals through the chakras and energies present in the nature. She leaned back and closed her eyes. Naruto kept sleeping and nursing on her breasts all the time. Her clone then brought her the dinner, and after having the dinner, she decided to take a dip in the hot spring and then to go to bed. 4 days later the fence was finished, and all the area was cleaned. It was time to put security seals. She looked at Naruto and shook her head in bewilderment. He was still nursing on her breasts, and she just feed him normal baby food. It was like his hunger won't sate until he drinks his mother's milk. Kushina separated his mouth from her and gave him to her clone. It was dangerous to keep him with her while putting the seals. She drew the master seal at the center. in the living room of shrine and other fours at the four corners of the fence. The master seal was of around 8 feet of diameter. She put her palm in the middle and sent her chakra in the seal, and the arrays and the markings on the seal lit up and started to move towards the 4 other seals, and after 5 minutes it was complete. For the time being she decided to keep that one feature off which would burn anyone only with touch. She heaved a sigh of relief. Now she and her baby was safe, no danger. Now she could do anything inside that fence, and without any worry. She took Naruto back from her clone, gave him a kiss on his nose, and started to take survey around the shrine since she wanted to train herself, and after some years Naruto also. In Konoha, a council meeting was in the progress. All clan head were there except Uchiha. There was no one representing the Uchiha clan, and Hisashi was there from Hyuga clan. 2 main remaining council members, Hamura and Koharu, were representing the council. And the main presence was Daimyo of Fire Country. When he was told that Kushina betrayed Konoha, he immediately put several million bounty on her head and added it in Konoha's bingo book. Kakashi was also there. He was released from the hospital some hours ago, and was instructed to take it easy. It seems that Kushina's chains missed his vital organs. One side was civilians and other was shinobis. As you all know that Hiruzen Sarutobi, our beloved from our Hokage, was killed by a traitor, and a village without a Kage is prone to attacks by other villages. So this council has been called to discuss this matter, Hamura said, and looked over the civilians and shinobis. So I would like to discuss this matter with the present clan heads, Hamura said, and looked at Shikaku. Shikaku nodded. Well, it's very unfortunate for Konoha to lose its Kage like that, but I hope you all will get over it, and again serve this village to make it better, he said, and everyone nodded. Okay, now the question is who should be the next Hokage. Danzo is also dead with Fugaku. There is only one person remaining, and that is Jiraiya-sama, but his whereabouts are unknown, and he was suddenly cut off by someone barging in the meeting room, and when he looked at the person his eyes widened. Jiraiya-sama, everyone muttered. Jiraiya had his stupid grin. I heard someone called me. The great he was cut off by Koharu. Shut it, Jiraiya, and sit down, she said, and Jiraiya shook his head and sat down. Where were you, Jiraiya-sama? Shikaku asked, and Jiraiya became serious. We will talk about it later. You continue your talk, Jiraiya said to Shikaku. Shikaku nodded. Well, now you are here, then I guess there's nothing left to say, Shikaku said, and looked at Hamura. Hamura nodded. Jiraiya, how would you like to be the new Hokage? Hamura offered, and Jiraiya went into a thought mode. After 1 minute he said, okay, I will accept, and Koharu raised her eyes, his abrupt reply, really? Yeah, there's much work to do as Hokage. I don't think we should waste time, he said, grinning. Everyone nodded and looked at Daimyo, and after discussing 15 or 20 minutes, Daimyo said, Konoha's new Hokage would be Jiraiya. Any objections? Daimyo said, and when no one said anything he started paperwork. Then Jiraiya stood up. Okay, civilians can leave now, he said, and everyone started to leave, grunting. When civilians left the meeting he looked over shinobis and clan heads. I was trapped in a paralysis seal and there was no way for me to break it, but someone helped me, he said, and everyone looked at him with curious gazes. It's the person you all are already aware of, but he is a criminal now, he said, and everyone's eyes widened. Before you say something, I would like to tell you something. I am here now because of that person. He may be an S-class criminal, but we need him to kill the one who killed our beloved Hokage. And that person is Orochimaru, he finished, and then Orochimaru entered in the room with his usual sinister grin. Everyone's eyes widened when they landed on Orochimaru. Hamura stood up immediately. Jiraiya, are you sure about it? You know very well what are his crimes, and they are unforgivable, Hamura said, narrowing his eyes. Orochimaru came near Hamura and put both his hands on his shoulders, sending a shiver down his spine. Hamura-san, don't get so excited. It can be harmful for your age, Orochimaru said in her usual hoarse voice. Hamura yanked his hands away. I hope you are not doing a mistake, Jiraiya, Hamura said, and sat down. Jiraiya sighed and looked over the occupants. They were all frightened. Listen everyone, he will be under my strict watch and help us getting to Kushina and get our Jinchuriki back. Except this matter I will make sure he stays out of every village matters, and he saved me so I owe him once, Jiraiya said, but no one said anything. Jiraiya then looked at Daimyo and nodded. Okay, with this the meeting is finished, Jiraiya said, and everyone went out immediately. Orochimaru came to Jiraiya and put a hand on his shoulder. I won't let you down, Jiraiya, he said, and Jiraiya nodded. I will put several tracking seals on you so I could know where you are, Jiraiya said, and they both shined. Mikoto and Itachi were searching for Kushina continuously since she left the village. And no one knew where she went except Anko, but no one knew Anko knows. So Itachi and Mikoto searched every corner of the village thoroughly but couldn't find her. Mikoto had stopped searching and started crying. Mikoto had gone to her friends like Sim, but Sim gave her cold shoulder. Sim herself didn't know. Kushina had just said to my son, and that's it. Defeated Mikoto and Itachi went home. Enko had just returned from Uzumaki Shrine. Kushina had made a small seal for Enko which allowed her to enter the security seal around shrine. She had planned to go to her friend Hana. She entered the Inuzuka compound, and just as she entered she spotted Hana lying on a sofa on her stomach reading a magazine. "Hey Hana," Enko greeted her, as she came near Hana. Hana heard her and leapt up from the sofa and looked at Enko. "Enko, where have you been all the time, and do you even know what is going on in the village?" Hana asked in one breath. Enko raised an eyebrow. "Calm down, Hana. I know everything," Enko said, and Hana's eyes widened. "Why, you know," Hana muttered. "Yeah, I know. I was with Kushina-sama all the time," Enko said nonchalantly. Hana narrowed her eyes. "You were with Kushina-sama, and where she is?" Hana asked. "She is in the Yuzi." Enko stopped. "I can't tell you without her permission," Enko said with a serious look. "Enko, I think you don't know, but my mom, Mikoto-sama, and others are searching for her," Hana said. Enko sighed. "When I will visit her next time I will ask her," Enko said, and snatched the magazine from Hana's hand. "Hey," Hana yelped. Hana then looked at Enko, who was flipping the pages of magazine. Hana knew if she told her about Orochimaru, Enko's world will go haywire and will turn upside down. But it was an extremely important truth that Enko needed to be aware of. She knew it will hurt her greatly. But if she doesn't become aware of it, then it can harm her. "Enko, you know something else happened in the village," Hana said, and Enko simply shook her head, seeing the seriousness in her friend's voice. "You know Jiraiya-sama brought back someone," Hana said, and Enko raised an eyebrow in confusion. "Enko, don't freak out or go out of control when you hear it," Hana said with uneasiness in her voice. "Hana, what is it?" Enko asked, now grave serious. "It's your former sensei," Hana said, and Enko's eyes widened and then narrowed. "What about that bastard?" Enko hissed through gritted teeth. He is in the village. Jiraiya-sama brought him," Hana said, and Enko's body froze. That's why her curse mark was tingling from the moment she entered in the village. Her body went numb. She felt like someone poured chilled water on her. Now, after knowing that Orochimaru was in the village, she could feel his presence looming over her. She could feel that endless darkness enveloping her again from which Kushina had saved her by accepting her. Her mind became fuzzy and she started to hyperventilate. She couldn't hear Hana's worry-etched calls to her. Her body was trembling and her heartbeat was faster. She yanked Hana away from her. She couldn't see anything. Everything around her morphed in Orochimaru's smirking. She made a dash for outside and ran, from the illusionary dark beast chasing behind her. When Hana came out, she was already gone. Enko ran in the streets, then on the main road, and then out of the village towards the Uzumaki Shrine. She had a horrified look on her face. Her eyes wide and tears were streaming down her face, a scared look on her face. Her breathing was coming in long strides. She didn't know where she was going. Her body and feet were taking her towards the shrine automatically, as if her subconscious mind knew that is the only safe place for her in the world. She was running at an insane speed. It wasn't like she couldn't handle herself against Orochimaru. It's just she was caught off guard when Hana told her, and the shock of the news triggered her deepest fear to come to surface. She never even in her dreams thought that Orochimaru would be allowed to enter in the village. Enko didn't stop, she just entered in the secured area and ran inside. She couldn't sense or realize that Itachi was behind her chasing her. He had seen her running out of village in that condition, and this time Itachi's speed was nothing compared to Enko's, so he lost her. Kushina was happily nursing Naruto when she sensed Enko's chakra approaching at a high speed. She immediately became alert and stopped her nursing, laying Naruto on the couch, stood up and went out. Just as she opened the door, Enko's body slammed in her. Voice escaped from Kushina's mouth, but Enko's force could only make Kushina skid back some foot, then stop. And as if Enko knew, she clung on Kushina's body and hugged her tightly. Enko, are you alright?" "What happened?" Kushina asked, but got no response, but Kushina sensed the evil chakra from the curse seal at its highest peak, like it was devouring her from inside. Kushina tightened her hold on Enko to steady her trembling body and started to run her right hand on her back to comfort her and other in her hairs. Half-hour later, Enko's trembling lessened and Kushina broke the hug and ushered her to the couch and looked in her eyes. "Okay, everything's fine. You are safe. Don't worry. Now tell me what happened," Kushina asked in a soft voice. Enko started to say but couldn't form word. He or here in KK Konoha. Kushina then hugged her again tightly and put her index finger on her forehead. It glowed for a second and Enko fell unconscious. Kushina lay her down on the couch and sit down near her head and with one hand start to caress her hairs and other hand to support Naruto on her lap while he feeds himself. 1 hour later Anko stirred and woke up and sat. She looked around and saw that she was with Kushina at shrine. She looked down then at Kushina and her eyes welled up, but she shook his head and took deep breaths to calm down. Kushina put a hand on her shoulder. What happened, Anko? Kushina asked with a worry-etched expression. Anko looked at Kushina. Jiraiya is new Hokage, Anko said and looked down, and then Kushina tightened her grip on her shoulder to let her know that she was there with her. He brought Orochimaru with him, Anko finished, and started to shake again. Kushina didn't say anything. She wrapped an arm around her shoulder and made her lean on her shoulder while Kushina rubbed her arm. Why he brought Orochimaru with him? Kushina asked, somewhat already knowing the answer. I don't know. I met Hana and she told me this. Not many people has like this, Anko said. Kushina didn't say anything for a minute, then break the silence. It's sure he is dangerous and Konoha isn't safe anymore. Damn it, how Jiraiya can be an idiot like this. Has he gone insane? Kushina said exasperatedly. Silence fell over again and again. Kushina broke it. I am sorry I forgot it, but it's time we remove your curse seal, Kushina said, and Anko's head snapped towards her. Really? Anko asked, and Kushina nodded. Tears welled up in Anko's eyes and she buried her face in her shoulder. Kushina patted her head. In Uchiha compound. It's been 1 month since the incident. Mikoto seemed like a character out of horror movie. It seemed she didn't care about herself anymore. She kept lying in her room. She didn't even remember the last time she took a bath. She didn't talk to anyone, only Itachi talked with her and her to him. She only ate food so that her breasts can produce milk for Sasuke. Itachi tried to do anything for his mother to come out of her hollow shell. It seemed she was only living to feed Sasuke. It was hard for Itachi to see his mother like that. Uchiha elders were thinking that she was in grief of Fugaka's death, but it has nothing to do with Fugaka's death. Itachi had had enough. He decided he would bring out his mother of her misery even if he had to force her. He shined to his house and went straight to his mother's room. Without knocking, he entered the room and found Mikoto staring at the wall mindlessly. He knew if this went on she would go mad. He closed his eyes, opened again with determination. Mikoto was simply wearing a white dirty shirt and a knee-length half pant. He stood in front of her, obstructing her view of the wall, but he didn't get any reaction. He was hurting inside seeing her like that. He was angry at his mother, and he was angry at himself for not being able to help her. He put a hand on her shoulder but didn't get any response. He squeezed her shoulder and hugged her tightly. Mom, why Mom? I know you are hurting, but can't you see Mom what you are doing? Seeing you like this is hurting me, not being able to help you, it's killing me, I feel useless now, Itachi whispered in a broken voice in Mikoto's ear with tears flowing down his face. Some moments later Itachi felt his mother responding and slowly wrapping her arms around him. Itachi, Mikoto voiced in just as a broken voice as Itachi. Itachi broke the hug and cupped her cheeks in his palms and looked in her eyes with affection. She had tears in her eyes and she seemed a little aware of her surroundings. That was a good sign. I am sorry, she said with same broken voice, and Itachi hugged her again. No, Mom, don't be sorry. I just want you to be happy. I know you are hurt, but being like this won't solve anything, Itachi said, and again breaking the hug looked at her. They stared at each other, then Mikoto sighed. You are right. I was idiot to act like that, Mikoto said and smiled and cupped Itachi's cheek with her right hand. I should have been more strong-willed for my beloved boys. Itachi blushed a little and Mikoto giggled, and Itachi also smiled seeing his mother smile, and he was surprised that she was so far away till moments ago, and now she seemed better. Then he shrunk his nose and said, Mom, you need to take a bath. You are stinking, Itachi said, and then Mikoto realized she was indeed stinking. Yeah, you are right, I must take a bath, she said and looked down. Then again said, but you will have to do something for me, she said and looked at Itachi, and he immediately answered. Anything for you, Mom, Itachi said, and then a mischievous glint appeared in her eyes, and it didn't go unnoticed by Itachi, and he felt he dug his grave by himself. Mikoto leaned closer to him and whispered, You will have to wash my back, and he almost fainted from the heat and blood rushing to his face. Mikoto stood up and walked to bathroom and stopped at the bathroom door, and looking back over her shoulder she said, Come on, your mother's waiting, she said, and entered the bathroom. To say the least, it was a total embarrassment bath for Itachi, and Mikoto kept giggling because it was a rare sight to see the stoic Itachi blushing. After the bath they went for a walk and Mikoto felt better than ever. Kushina had Anko lie at the center of one of the rooms. She decided to make that room for sealing purposes. Anko was sitting on a seal which looked like a pentagram. It has a circle in it, and all 5 vertices of pentagram were connected to the circle, and finally Anko was lying inside that circle totally naked. Kushina had asked her to keep as less cloths as she could on her body, and she undressed completely. Though Kushina had suggested keeping her panties on, but Anko said since they were secluded and Kushina was the only one there, she doesn't have any problem. Anko seemed scared to Kushina, so she decided to sit with her inside that circle near Anko to reassure her that everything will be okay. Then Kushina brought her brush to Anko's body and started to draw several seals on her body, starting from her toes to her knees, thighs, hips, stomach. The 2 lines entangled at her stomach and then following her ribcage, then her perky and large for her age breasts connected again at a point at her upper chest and under her neck. There they combined in a whirlpool sign of Uzumaki symbol, and from there to her neck, cheeks and forehead. The whirlpool sign on her chest was connected to her curse seal with 5 entangling paths. Kushina placed her palm on the whirlpool symbol on her chest and looked at Anko and nodded. "Don't worry, just trust me." Anko nodded. "Ready?" Kushina asked, and Anko closed her eyes and nodded. Kushina's palm started to glow in a green and blue light, and 1 second later all drawing on Anko's body started to glow, and next moment they started to move towards the whirlpool sign. Seconds later, all arrays and patterns were merged with the whirlpool sign, and from there they started to move towards the 5 entangling paths and over to the curse seal. The Uzumaki symbol then started to fade from her chest, and the whirlpool sign started to form above the curse seal, spinning wildly, and soon the 3 tomos also started to spin with the symbol and merge with it, dissolving it, and removing it, and replacing it with Uzumaki whirlpool symbol. A black and whitish liquid poured from the finished seal and started to form in a human figure. Now this was the hard thing that Kushina anticipated, a part of Orochimaru's soul. When the white liquid was in its halfway to form the final structure, Kushina's form also started to change in her demonic form. Her eyes changed to the mixture of white and red color, and cracks started to appear on her whole body. Her hairs became longer and bloodier. Several chains appeared from her back and pointed to Orochimaru, who was just about to complete. And just as the form completed, it was pierced at hundreds of places by the chains, repeatedly killing it on the spot. Then her chain turned from golden to red hot and lava dripping, and then again pierced him, burning him completely, not even leaving the ashes. Though Anko was in a drug-induced state whole time, she thrashed as long as the white liquid poured from her curse seal, and after that she fell unconscious. Kushina turned back to her original state and sat down near Anko. She started at her face for some seconds, then stood up, lifting her bridal style, took her in a room on the bed and tucked her in the bed, covering her, and walked out in the hall where Naruto was being looked after by her clone. Kushina cradled Naruto in her arms and smiled at him. Naruto also smiled, flailing his arms, and then grabbed her blouse in his tiny fist that indicated obvious. Kushina sighed and then chuckled. She pinched his nose lightly, which made baby Naruto giggle, and then purr cutely. Kushina sat down and, lifting her blouse, started to breastfeed him. Later Anko came out and sat beside Kushina. "How are you feeling?" Kushina asked, and a cheerful expression appeared on Anko's face. "Fantastic, like never before," Anko said, grinning ear to ear. Kushina smiled, hearing her. "I have replaced your curse seal with something amazing for you," Kushina said, and a confusion look appeared on Anko's face. "Am I still not free?" Anko asked, dreading. Kushina shook her head. "You are free completely, but I have put a seal on the same place. It looks like Uzumaki clan symbol, and this seal has several functions which would be useful for you in the times of pinch." Kushina briefed her, but the confusion look was still there. "Okay, listen carefully. The seal I have put on you is an automatic chakra storage seal. It will draw chakra from your body after your sleep extends more than 5 hours and stores it for next 2 hours. It will help you when you are out of chakra. And second, it will let you communicate with me anytime you want. I have merged my communication seal in this one. Your chakra control will be far better than ever," Kushina explained, and Anko immediately latched on Kushina, hugging her tightly, and saying thank you again and again. Breaking the hug, Anko sat down again, giddy at the new feeling in her body. "Now I think you should go. They might become suspicious about you," Kushina said, and Anko pouted. "Can I stay here with you?" Anko whined, behaving like a child first time since the incident with Orochimaru. Kushina looked at Anko and smiled warmly, and patted her head, making the girl blush. "Anko, you know you can give a slip to Orochimaru now, so don't need to be scared. You are safe now. Just stay alert. I am sending you back because I don't want them hunting after you like me," Kushina said softly, and Anko sighed. All right, I am going," she said, and giving Kushina another hug stood up and walked out. 1 more month later, at Uchiha compound, in Mikoto's room, Mikoto and Itachi were sitting, talking. Mikoto was given the role of a temporary leader until Itachi gets a little older and experienced. There was a long session of arguments from every direction by the elders of Uchiha clan. One noble even offered the idea of Mikoto to remarry, and he immediately found a cut on her cheek, with wide eyes looked at Itachi. Then, and there, Itachi announced that if his mother thought to get married again, it will be by her own choice and will, and if he heard someone forcing something on her, he will kill him immediately without any remorse, and everyone stopped whatever they wanted to say and announced Mikoto temporary leader. Mikoto had thanked him by kissing his cheek, and he again said anything for you. She giggled and he became red when he remembered what happened last time when he said that. For 1 month it was all good, but soon a Yamanaka was kidnapped, and no one knew who and when and how it happened. Inoichi accused Orochimaru for this, but Jiraiya said that he was with him 24 hours of the day, and whenever they went out in search of Kushina, he was with him. It made Inoichi shut immediately, but Jiraiya reassured him that he will soon find out the kidnapped person. Whatever happened and whoever kidnapped the Yamanaka clan member was another thing, but this incident placed a fear in everyone's mind and they became more alert and conscious about their clan's security. Enko hadn't been sent on any mission, so she knew what was going on in the village, and she was making Kushina aware of everything that was going on in the village by her new communication seal. She was given 2 communication seals by Kushina, one on the back of her hand and second on her neck with Uzumaki symbol. Kushina had told her that the village is not safe anymore and to stay alert all the time. Damn, I can't spare time to search for Kushina. All of my time is wasting in this useless paperwork, Jiraiya grumbled, sitting on Hokage's seat signing paper after paper. Orochimaru was sitting on the sofa near him, and he was watching Jiraiya attentively. I have an idea, but that would only work if you at least take it in consideration, Orochimaru said in his unique voice. Jiraiya looked at him. Why don't we hear your idea then, Jiraiya suggested, and Orochimaru smirked inwardly. Look, till now I haven't broken our promise, and I don't intend to break it ever. I don't know who kidnapped that Yamanaka. My idea is, you do your paperwork and give me permission to go out and let me search for Kushina, and I assure you that not only Kushina but others who are thinking or want to harm Konoha will be exposed. You just let me, Orochimaru explained, and Jiraiya looked at Orochimaru pensively for a minute then sighed. His mind was jumbled by the recent incidents, Kushina, Hiruzen, Yamanaka, Orochimaru, and that damn paperwork. But as he pondered the idea, it tempted him to allow Orochimaru, and he was sure he will find Kushina faster. But the question was, could he trust him? He hadn't broken his promise to do anything except the Yamanaka incident, and that too happened when Orochimaru was with him. This made Jiraiya inclined towards trusting Orochimaru, but he couldn't let him do anything as he wanted. So an idea came to his mind. He stood up and walked to Orochimaru and gave him a hug, which surprised Orochimaru. Orochimaru, I am allowing to go out without me, but I want daily reports and I don't want you to do anything that would break whatever trust you have gained from me, Jiraiya said, and pressed his palms in Orochimaru's back and lifting his index finger left a minuscule spying seal on his neck. And immediately backed away and looked at Orochimaru and nodded, smiling. Orochimaru also nodded, but he was smirking widely inside. Orochimaru then walked out and couldn't help smirking like a maniac. How much of an idiot can you be, Jiraiya? He muttered under his breath, and lifting his hand put his finger to the place Jiraiya had placed the seal and it disappeared immediately. Now let's have a reunion, my Enko-chan, before I start my hunting quest for Digitsus of Konoha clans, Orochimaru said to himself, and shined. Enko was sauntering in the streets on Konoha. A fresh and cheerful look on her face, and the smile on that face was like toppings on the cake. She was humming to herself. After removing the seal, she was feeling the freedom in her veins. She felt like she was flying. She was on the way to meet her friend Yugao. She wasn't on good terms with Kurenai since she came to know that Kurenai was also there on the QB incident day. She saw that Itachi and Mikoto were taking an evening walk. Itachi was a good friend of her from the academy. She shouted his name to draw his attention and succeeded. She walked to them. Wow, mother and son, taking a walk together, what a sight, she said, grinning, and Itachi blushed a little and Mikoto chuckled. Well, Miss Enko, why, is it a problem that a mother is walking with her son? Mikoto said, grinning. No, not at all. Kushina-sama keep her son in her arms every m. She stopped when she realized what she had said and saw that Bota Uchiha had wide eyes. Mikoto immediately grabbed Enko's hands in hers and tears welled up in her eyes. Please, Enko-chan, tell me where Kushina is, please, Mikoto implored. I don't, she stuttered and couldn't form a sentence. Itachi put a hand on Enko's shoulder. Enko-san, if you know where Kushina-sama is, please tell us. You don't know how badly we are searching for her, he said, and looked at his mother, who was now crying. You don't know how badly my mother wants to see her so that she could ask for forgiveness, Itachi finished. Enko started to sweat. Oh shit, why I didn't keep my damn mouth shut. Damn it, now Kushina-sama will be mad at me, Enko thought, and looked at Mikoto's pitiful face. She sighed. Look, I can't tell you where she is, Enko said, and both of Uchiha's face fell down in stress. She continued, but I will tell her about you and then it's up to her, Enko said, sighing. Thank you, Mikoto said, crying. Itachi gave a nod and wrapping an arm around Mikoto's shoulder walked away. Enko sighed sadly and started to walk, but now she didn't feel like meeting Yugao and turned back to her apartment, and as she reached near it, her eyes widened when she sensed all too familiar chakra behind her. She froze and felt two arms circling her waist, but before they could complete the circle she disappeared and reappeared 5 foot away, glaring at him heatedly. My Anko-chan, why are you running away from your beloved sensei? Orochimaru said, smirking. Anko's blood boiled hearing him, and next moment, she appeared inches away from Snake Sanin, her fist lodged in his stomach, buried inside, touching all the way back to the spine. Orochimaru had a shocked look on his face, his body doubled over on her fist. You bastard, how dare you, to even come near me, Anko growled in fury. But a shocked look now appeared on Anko's face when Orochimaru's body turned into mud. Damn you, a mud clone! She gritted her teeth in anger and looked around, but no one was there. He had already gone. She took deep breath and cooled down and walked to her apartment. Damn, she is much powerful than before. How did she get that powerful? She had almost caught me off guard and I couldn't sense the curse seal on her, Orochimaru said to himself in shock. Next day Anko went to Kushina and she saw that she was still sleeping without any cloths except bra and panties, though bra was just a formality for obvious reason. Anko looked at the clock and sighed. It was 6 a.m. She decided to prepare tea for herself and Kushina. After making tea she sat down in the living room and sipped on her tea and waited for Kushina to wake up. 2 hours later, fully dressed Kushina with Naruto in her arms were sitting across Anko, looking at her intensely and guessing why she would come so early in the morning. Anko fidgeted in her seat nervously and looked everywhere but the person in front of her. Anko, Kushina said a little louder and with an edge. Why yes, Anko replied meekly. What did you do? Tell me, Kushina said directly, since she couldn't guess anything that would make Anko fidget and so nervous. Anko then sighed. I told them, Mikoto-san, that I know where you are, Anko said, and waited for a scolding. But to her surprise Kushina leaned back and rubbed her temple. Mikoto, Kushina mumbled. That chapter was still unfinished, and it was unnecessarily kept open by her. Of course, she wouldn't forgive her easily, but she too needed to confront her and close this chapter. She looked at Anko and smiled. What did you exactly told her? Kushina asked to Anko. Anko, a bit surprised, answered, she was walking with Itachi when I met her and it accidentally slipped from me that I know about your whereabouts. Not exactly, but something like that. Then she started to cry and started to ask me about your location. She said she is searching for you for 2 months, day and night. She said she wants to ask for forgiveness for what she did to you. She said she would do anything. Even Itachi was pleading to me to tell them about you. It seemed like she really wanted to repent for what she did, Anko said, finishing. And what did you exactly tell them? Kushina asked, no longer looking at her and busying herself with Naruto. I said that I can't tell you where she is, but I will tell her about you, Anko said, and looked at Kushina. I am sorry, it won't happen again, Anko said, and Kushina just waved her off. No problem. Everyone makes mistakes, she said, and looked at Anko. A look of relief was evident on her face. On second thoughts, I think I should punish you, Kushina said, and Anko's eyes widened. Then she looked down, tears welling up in her eyes. She just disappointed one woman. She never wanted to disappoint and admired her to no limits. I am ready for punishment, Anko choked and closed her eyes shut. Okay then, Kushina started, and Anko waited for the impending doom that was about to fall over her. You will clean the shrine and the spring behind it, and prepare lunch today, Kushina said, and Anko's head snapped up immediately in shock. What kind of punishment did you thought I was going to give you? Come on, I was just kidding, but you will have to prepare the lunch, Kushina said and laughed, and some moments later, wiping her eyes, Anko also joined her. In the night at Uchiha Compound's gate, Kushina was standing in front of the gate. Some moments later she disappeared and reappeared in her former best friend's room. She noticed that the room were messed up, but ignoring everything she sat on the chair near the bed and called, Mikoto, Mikoto. Mikoto wasn't in deep sleep, so she immediately sat up when she heard the voice, and her eyes widened when she saw Kushina sitting on the chair. Kushina, she could only utter her name. Well, I heard someone wanted to see me badly, Kushina said, and was shocked when Mikoto immediately fell in Kushina's feet, crying and repeating sorry, again and again. For some seconds Kushina let her cry, and she wanted to see her cry more, but damn it, she wasn't a sadist and also had a heart. She grabbed Mikoto's shoulder and, lifting her up, helped her to sit on the bed. Kushina watched Mikoto's crying face in hopes that her anger towards her will diminish a little, and it did. She sighed. First of all, stop crying if you want me to talk, Kushina said without any emotions in her voice, and Mikoto immediately stopped and looked at Kushina with tear-filled eyes. Why did you betray me? Kushina asked in a cold voice. I was forced to do that by Fugaku. He said if I didn't do as he asked me to, then my son's life could be in danger. He threatened me, Mikoto said in between sobs. Kushina sighed. She could feel that she was telling the truth. Mikoto, you are a damn kick-ass kunoichi and you are saying he forced you? Oh come on, Kushina said disgustedly. They all threatened me. All of them, Fugaku, elders, all of them, Mikoto said, started to sob again. I know I could have resisted, but I was scared for Sasuke's safety, and Itachi wasn't here at that time, Mikoto said, looking down in her lap. What would you have done? Mikoto asked, looking at Kushina. Kushina chuckled at her question and leaned close to Mikoto. What would I have done? I would have walked to your side with my son in my arms and would have fought alongside you, Kushina said with sheer coldness. Mikoto's eyes widened hearing her, and for some moments the room was silent. Yeah, you must have done that, Mikoto said lowly. Kushina stood straight. Well, I am an Uzumaki, and for an Uzumaki, family is the first and foremost, but you Uchihos won't understand it, Kushina told her, and Mikoto again started to sob. Kushina, please forgive me, please, Mikoto cried out the words. Kushina sighed. She had no sympathy for the woman, but she thought to go easy on her. Listen, Mikoto, I can't forget what you did and forgive you, not anytime soon, but I think we can be on good terms, good to each other like normal people, but we won't be friends anymore, and if you succeeds in gaining my trust again, then maybe I will forgive you, Kushina said and looked at Mikoto, who was looking back at her. Kushina raised an eyebrow. Mikoto nodded. Okay, I can live with that, Mikoto said and smiled a genuine smile after a long time. Kushina then nodded. Okay, I must leave now. My son is waiting for me, but Mikoto stopped her. How can I contact you, she asked, and Kushina thought for a second, then said, if you ever have something to tell me, you can contact to Anko and tell her, Kushina said and disappeared. Mikoto sighed and felt her heart became lighter than before. Itachi then burst into the room and Mikoto hugged him tightly, burying his face in his chest. Kushina then appeared in Inuzuka compound where she had left Naruto with Anko and Inuzuka family. She took Naruto in her arms immediately. Tsum had also given birth to her son Kiba Inuzuka, and his sister Hana just couldn't keep her hands off of him. She wanted to keep him in her arms all the time, but when Tsum instructed her sternly, she relented. Kushina congratulated her on having Kiba and also asked to stay alert and safe and took her leave, and Tsum nodded. Kushina turned to Anko and nodded, then disappeared. Kushina appeared inside of her bedroom in the shrine and laying Naruto on the bed removed all her cloths and lifting Naruto walked to the hot spring behind the shrine. She lay Naruto near the edge and entered the bath and submerged to her shoulders and kept her arms on the edge, both sides, and leaned her head back and looked at the starry sky. There were lots of stars in the sky twinkling and glittering, and it brought some old memories on the surface. She remembered the day when she used to watch the sky with her parents in Yuzushio. She and her parents often used to go to beach in night, in the cold air. They had a beach house in which they used to spend the night, but most of the time they used to stay outside of the house at the beach. Sometimes they would take a long walk on the beach, or sometimes her mother would place a single futon on the sand and a warm sheet to cover them. 3 of them would lie on the futon. Her father on her right, and her mother on her left, and Kushina in middle, and then they would stare at the sky and moonlight shining brightly on the beach. They used to talk for hours in the night, talking about everything or nothing. She remembered the last time they went on the beach. Her parents were pestering her to find a boyfriend and then marry, but she outright refused and said that she wouldn't marry to anyone and won't leave her parents since she loved them too much to leave them. She said if she ever, by any chance, got married, she will force her husband to stay at her father's home, and if he refuses, then he can go to his own house alone. She chuckled at the memory, then her heart felt heavy from emotions, her eyes welled up and a tear slid down her pinkish cheeks, then second. It was her last time on the beach with her parents before Yuzushio was destroyed by the 3 combined forces. Her parents succeeded in sending her away, but the intruding soldiers had caught up with her and her uncle, who was helping her to escape. Her uncle killed all their pursuers, but he too died. He asked her to run and go to Konoha borders where she will be safe. She stayed with her uncle until he died, then did as her uncle had said to her, and went to Konoha. She ran and ran, without stopping. She continued to run until she reached Konoha borders. She didn't take any rest, though she stooped sometimes to drink the water to wet her dry throat and lips. And when she reached there, and just as the border force saw her, she fell down unconscious. When she woke up, she was so scared and traumatized that she didn't speak for a whole week. Then slowly, when her mind got its bearings back, she cried for days nonstop. But now if she thought about the attack on Yuzushio-Gakure, Konoha was an ally to Yuzushio-Gakure, then why hadn't Hiruzen sent any force to us as reinforcement? Was he informed too late, or he was never informed, or he intentionally let Yuzu go through destruction? I will have to someday sneak in the Hokage office and find the truth. Hiruzen knew who she was, so he kept her from any unwanted and unnecessary attention and tried to provide the best medical attention he could get, and who could be better than Tsunade? Tsunade was given the job to make Kushina well and working, and over the course of time they became close, almost like mother and daughter. Kushina would never forget the memories of her parents, but Tsunade gave her the motherly comfort she needed at that time, and 1 year later she joined the academy. Though her early days in academy was hell, but she came around, and then after some time when Tsunade's beloved died she also left her. Kushina was sad and she cried when Tsunade left, but that time Minato and her friends were there to console her, and she came around and life went on. Her journey of thoughts was cut off by Naruto's abrupt cry. She wiped her tears and turned towards Naruto. It's his feeding time, and she had just fed him before she got into the bath. She lifted him in her arms and again turned her back to the edge of spring. She placed her in his mouth and he immediately started suckling happily. Kushina sighed and looked at baby Naruto in her arms. Now she had only one person whom she loved from every fiber of her body and her soul, and she would be damned if she let any harm or danger come near her baby boy. She would eradicate and destroy all who would ever try to come in her and her baby's life with malicious intent and tries to harm him. She would eliminate every threat that would or could raise its fangs towards her son in present and future. She would show them the depths of hell if they tried to separate her from her son. She wouldn't even let their souls rest. She kissed Naruto's forehead and smiled. Two more things remain to do: talk with Kyubi, but if something happened to Naruto when I goes in the seal in his mind is still fragile. No, I won't forgive myself if something happened to his fragile mind. I will have to wait a little more until he gets a little older. And second is that mask. I don't know how to use that, but anyway I will keep that with me. It would be dangerous if someone got their hands on it, she thought, and decided to get out of the bath and go to bed. It was almost midnight. She dried her body and wore a panty and a loose shirt, no bra, the shirt coming down to her upper part of thighs. She lay down with Naruto still suckling her milk and dozed off. 1 year later. Naruto was 1 year and some months old now. He had started to move on his 2 legs, but not without his mother's supportive finger, which he always grasped in his tiny fists while walking. He also had started to say some words that had no meanings, but Kushina was ecstatic when she heard her son's voice and couldn't hold herself from clutching him to her breasts and showering him with kisses. His diet had also increased. Kushina had increased the amount of food she fed him. Before she only fed him liquid food, but now she also added some half-solid food in his diet. She also had started to make plans about his training. She decided that she would start his training when he would be 3 years old. She would start it with some light jogging and some exercises, and she would increase it gradually with time. She also had most of the news about Konoha. After Orochimaru was given full control, he hunted the village clan secretly, and when complaints reached Jiraiya he checked the seal and didn't find anything out of place. It seemed like Orochimaru was not in his control, but the contrary. Now only main and popular clan like Uchiha, Inuzuka and Hyuga remained, which wasn't hunted by Orochimaru, but he desperately wanted the Sharingan and Byakugan and the great sense of smell of Inuzukas. He had already captured some Inuzukas who were sent on S-class missions, but they never returned. 2 years later. Naruto was 2 years older now and could walk on his 2 legs without support, but not for a long time. He had now started to recognize things around him. He also said his first word, ma. When Kushina heard this, she was washing the dishes and the plates slipped out from her hands when she heard the word. She immediately hugged him tightly with tear-filled eyes. She encouraged him to say the word again, and he slowly started to call her ma. And every time he called her ma, she would hug him and kiss him. She also started to walk with him around the shrine until either he became tired or hungry. And if he got tired, Kushina would lift him in her arms and put his head on her shoulder and let him sleep, and if hungry she would breastfeed him. Kushina's milk was the only one that he liked very much above all foods. It was his main content of every course of meal. Kushina noticed that he was obsessed with her milk, and he wouldn't touch any other food if Kushina didn't stop him sternly, and still he would release her reluctantly. Kushina let him suckle on her breasts all the time. It also made her feel good, but she started to be strict at the end of his 2nd year. She had been informed by Anko recently that the kidnapping of people had increased abnormally and all the clans had increased the security. She was also informed that Orochimaru knew where she was, and she wondered why he and Jiraiya hadn't attacked her already, not like they would be able to pass and enter the seal. She wanted to concentrate on her son's growth because it was his growing stages and it was the most important phase of his life, and she wouldn't ignore it for the world. Complete 3 years later. The streets of Konoha, which used to be crowded, were now empty of any human. People were so afraid that they didn't even come out of their houses. In afternoon, only for 2 or 3 hours people would come out, would open shops, and before dusk they would close the shops. It was an open knowledge to everyone that Jiraiya had failed as a Hokage, and he was accused of bringing Orochimaru and being involved with him. A council meeting with Daimyo had Jiraiya suspended from the Hokage post. And Shikaku was chosen as the next Hokage with Koharu and Hamura as his helpers and assistants. Shikaku immediately stopped the search for Kushina and the money and ninjas working on it. No one knew where Orochimaru was, so Shikaku also had his umbus on the search, and Jiraiya was asked that if he again wants to prove himself loyal to the village, then he will bring Orochimaru's head. Now Anko was busy in doing missions when Hokage was replaced. Though the fear was still present in the people's mind, but they were getting on track again gradually, but in the night people were still getting kidnapped. Naruto was 3 years old now, and it was time to start the training. Naruto now could speak and understand the words. He also was a pain in the ass, as Kushina often used to say to herself. He had a lot of stamina and energy just like his mother. He now used to run and play in whole Uzumaki Shrine. He wouldn't listen to his mother, and kept playing in mud, dirtying his cloths. He would often hide from his mother, and she would immediately panic and start to search for him frantically, and then he would suddenly come out from nowhere and surprise her. She would first scold him lightly, then embrace him, and would almost cry, and then admonish him for making her worry and panic. Naruto would then say sorry and kiss her on the cheek and wipe her tears with his tiny fingers, and Kushina, seeing the guilty look on his cute little face, would just melt and hug him again. At the moment both of them were in the hot spring behind the shrine, bathing together. Kushina had her back against the edge and her eyes closed. Naruto was sitting next to her, his eyes also closed. Naruto opened her right eye slightly to take a look at his mother. Kushina had told him that they would start training today. He didn't quite understand it but just nodded. He wondered what his mom would ask him to do. Kushina then opened her eyes and raised an eyebrow when she caught Naruto staring at her. She knew that he was staring at her, but why, she didn't know. "What's the problem, baby?" Kushina asked, and Naruto shook his head. "Nothing," Naruto answered. Kushina raised an eyebrow. Last thing she wanted for Naruto to start hiding things from her. She lifted Naruto and placed him on her lap facing her and looked in the eyes. "Naruto, you know I love you," she said, and he nodded. "Okay, then promise me that you will never hide anything from me." "Never," she said, and Naruto nodded. "I promise," he immediately promised. He loved his mother, and he didn't think any need for hiding things from her. "Okay, then tell me, what were you thinking?" Kushina asked softly. "I was just thinking about the training you talked about," he said, and Kushina nodded, smiling, and started to lather his hair with soap. "You know you don't need to worry about it. Just leave everything to your mama," Kushina said, and Naruto nodded. She poured water on his head and washed the leather, and after cleaning his body she took a look at his body for any changes from normal, but there wasn't any. She nodded to herself, and then asked Naruto to wash her back. Then after some time they came out. Kushina dried herself and Naruto and then dressed him and herself. They had a light breakfast and walked out. "Okay, let's start," Kushina said enthusiastically, but stopped when she didn't get a response and looked at Naruto, who was in deep thought. She sat down on one knee and looked at Naruto. "What is it?" she asked. Naruto looked at her and lifting his hand pointed towards her. Kushina saw where his finger was pointing her breasts. Kushina bonked him lightly on the head. "Haven't you just had breakfast?" Kushina chided, and Naruto looked away. Kushina sighed. "I will have to control this habit of his, otherwise he will become obsessed with my milk, and won't eat any other thing. And when my body will stop producing milk in my breast, damn what Naruto would do then, what would I do then? Now it's necessary to control it," she thought with worry etched on his beautiful face. "You won't get anything today, and in lunch you will eat green vegetables and a little ramen, that's all," she said in a stern voice, and Naruto's head snapped towards her, his eyes wide. He then looked down. "I understand," he said in a meek voice, and Kushina was first surprised then hugged him, but she couldn't see a smirk on his cute little lips. "I will have my favorite food in the night when you are asleep, Mom," he thought, and break the hug with a smile. "Let's start the training," Naruto said, and Kushina nodded and stood up. "Okay, listen, what you have to do is run around this shrine." "Okay, as many laps as you can," Kushina said, and Naruto nodded with enthusiasm. He was eager to start his training and get stronger like his mom. Kushina make a starting point, and they both started running, though Naruto's tiny legs couldn't do much, but Kushina's heart swelled seeing the pure determination on his cute face. His running was like a light walk in garden for Kushina, but she kept a close look on him. His body, his breathing, everything to make sure he doesn't overdo it. After 20 minutes she stopped, and Kushina decided to take some rest. She was happy that he did 4 laps in 15 minutes. They sat down under a tree and talked for a while about training and Konoha. Kushina had started to tell him events and their relations from Konoha. She also told him about Yuzushio and what it was famous for. After half hour they again started the laps, and it continued whole day. Laps, rest, laps, rest. Next day she made him do some push-ups and squats with laps around the shrine. She also started to teach him how to read and write. And in 1 month he started to show that he was a smart one, and of course Kushina was happy. It continued for next 6 months, and after 6 months he was able to read and write, but he still had some problems reading and writing hard. complicated, and long words. But Kushina continued his teaching, and after 1 year he was fully able to read and write. Whatever Kushina taught him he understood in once, and whatever she asked him to do, he did it. Now at the age of 4, he was able to run at least 15 laps around the shrine and around 30 push-ups and squats. His monstrous stamina, sheer determination, and his mother's support helped him gaining these targets. After completion of 4 years, Kushina increased his physical targets, and she added one new fighting style in his daily training, and it was Kenjutsu. She made some wooden katanas for practice. But she kept main focus on his body strength and stamina. She also told him history of Uzumaki and Yuzushiogakure. When she told him about her life in Yuzushiogakure, Naruto was happy to know that her mom was happy, but when she told him about the tragedy that fall on Yuzushio, and how it happened, a fire of rage burned in his eyes and it didn't go unnoticed by Kushina. She patted his head, lovingly smiling, and he calmed down. Then she continued how she came to Konoha and how she met Minato, his dad. Naruto interrupted, asking about his father, and Kushina asked him to let her finish. She then told him about the time when he was in her womb, and then what happened when he was born. Naruto was stunned hearing about what happened when he was born. First, Naruto felt rage at his father for sealing the Kyuubi in him and putting the village before the family. Then he felt unbridled rage on the village for what they did with his mother, and he started to shake and sweat from the fury. His blood in his veins started to boil and fists clenched. And when Kushina felt the temperature rise and his eyes started to get a shade of darker blue, Kushina had to hug him and kiss him to calm him down. It took about 15 minutes for Naruto to calm down. When Naruto calmed down, Kushina asked if he was alright and he nodded. Kushina pulled him in her lap. Then Kushina continued her story about what happened after that, and when she finished, she noticed Naruto was clutching her tighter, and when she looked at his face she became alarmed because he was crying. Naruto, what happened? Why are you crying, baby? Kushina asked, wiping his tears and kissing his forehead. He hugged her neck tightly. I am sorry, he said between sobs, and Kushina's eyes widened hearing him. Honey, why are you sorry? Kushina asked, herself on the verge of crying. If I hadn't been born, why you still would have been why he was cut off by Kushina hushing him. SSHHH, don't cry, baby. You know it hurts me when you cry, don't you? Kushina said, and she felt him nod over her shoulder. After a minute, Kushina broke the hug, and wiping his face from her sleeves she kissed her forehead and cheeks and smiled and grasped both of his tiny hand in hers and looked at him. Naruto, honey, first get it out of your head that whatever happened was your fault. It wasn't your fault at all. Your coming in this world was natural and fruit of the love I did to your father. It was your father who messed up everything. He wanted a Jinchuriki for the village, so he sealed the Kyuubi in you instead of killing it. He could have killed the Kyuubi at that time when he summoned the Shinigami. But no, he wanted the strongest Biju in Konoha, even though Konoha was strong enough to fight against the villages which have Jinchurikis. But still he did that. So it's not your fault. You don't know how happy I was when I first held you in my arms. I felt like I was flying. Being your mother was the greatest thing that happened to me. So nothing was your fault. Kushina finished, and Naruto kept looking at her. Though he was only 4 years old, but he understood everything his mother told him. And he was more than happy to know that his mother was happy when she gave birth to him. Finally he nodded and smiled. Kushina ruffled his hair, kissed his head again. She gave him a glass of water and continued to tell other villages' history, whatever she knew about them. Then she started to tell him about the clans in Konoha. She told him that there are several clans in Konoha, but only few run the show, and they are Uchiha, Hyuga, Inuzuka, Nara, and Yamanaka. She asked him if it was getting over or he was getting bored or tired, but he said that he was interested to know about them, and Kushina continued. She then told him about these clans and their history, whatever little she knew. She then concluded the day's training about telling him a little about chakra. So now you know about everything. How do you feel? Kushina asked, and Naruto looked at her. I feel like I have been living in these villages for a long time now. I mean, I know almost everything necessary about every village, and I feel confident now, he said, and Kushina smiled. Okay, you know, for listening to the boring history and being such a sweet boy you deserve a reward, Kushina said, and Naruto perked up. The reward I will give you whatever you want, Kushina said, grinning, and Naruto's eyes widened. Really, you will give me anything, he asked, and she nodded, and he started to think. And after thinking for 1 minute he concluded that he didn't need anything. Damn. He thought that he won't let this chance go away. Then one thing came to him. His training was going good. He was satisfied with it, but one thing he needed in it. After his daily running and push-ups, when he felt thirsty, he always wanted to drink that sweet, tasty, and full of nutrients milk of his mother, and she would always refuse. She had limited the breastfeeding for 2 times a day only, in afternoon and before sleeping. I have one thing I want, he said, and looked up at his mother from her lap, who was waiting to know. Tell me, she asked. You will let me drink your milk after my running and as long as I want, Naruto said, and Kushina sighed and then chuckled. I should have known, but anyway, okay. I will let you, Kushina said, smiling, and Naruto jumped from her lap in joy. Now let's get ready for your birthday evening. Your big sis Anko would come with your cake, Kushina said, and Naruto's eyes shined with happiness. He loved Anko and the time spent with her. Anko was now going on missions, so she didn't come often now, but she said there's no way she would miss her little brother's birthday. Anko always told Naruto about her missions and some new things. And Naruto asked her things he felt embarrassed to ask his mother, though he knew she would answer him if he asked her, but it was easy to ask his big sister and get acquainted with. It was afternoon, and they were both sweating. Naruto still had problem in dressing and undressing properly, so Kushina undressed Naruto and herself in the living room and moved to the hot spring. Kushina entered first and sat down in the hot water to her shoulders. She looked at Naruto, who had a cute little smirk on his lips. Kushina raised an eyebrow. What are you waiting for? Kushina asked, but Naruto didn't reply. He made a little distance between himself and hot spring and ran towards it, and jumped in the water, splashing it everywhere, and soaking Kushina's hair and face completely. When the splashes calmed down, he looked at his mother, and his smile disappeared when he saw the serious look on her face. He immediately sat down next to her, and hung his head down. Some seconds later he heard a weird sound coming from his mother, and he looked up towards her, and his eyes widened when he saw that his mother was trying to muffle her laughter with her hands. And when she saw that Naruto was looking at her, removing her hand from her mouth, she started to laugh loudly. Ha ha ha, you ha ha ha, you should ha 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 have seen ha ha your face, Kushina said between the laughter. Naruto never saw her mother laugh so hard and openly. He felt something warm in his chest. He felt like he achieved something great. Seeing his mother laugh like that, the scene filled his whole body with happiness, but a smirk appeared on his face. It's time for a payback. He lounged at his mother and grabbed her sides and started tickling her body. Kushina started to laugh harder and tried to stop Naruto, but all her attempts were failed when Naruto started to tickling her ribs under her breasts. Ha 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 st ha 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 sto nera ha 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 nera ha 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 please ha 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 I am ha ha sorry ha 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 ha. Kushina couldn't even form coherent words. Tears started to flow from her eyes. She even started to drool from keeping her mouth open for a long time. Her eyes were shut tightly. When Naruto was satisfied, he stopped, and just as he stopped, Kushina's body lost all strength. She was completely exhausted. Her body lay motionless in the hot spring. Her head and arms were lying on the edge, no strength in them. She was taking long gulp of breath. Her breasts were heaving up and down with every breath. And Naruto, you exhausted me, she said between pants. It was my payback, Naruto said, grinning. Don't worry, I will pay you back too, Kushina said, wiping her face off of any drool or tears. When she got her strength back, she decided it was time to get out. Well, let's get out. I also have to prepare dinner, she said, and got out. Mom, what about the cake? You said we will cut the cake, Naruto asked, hoping his mother would bring a cake to him. He had tasted it once when Anko had come with a cake on a short visit. Don't worry, Anko will bring you a cake, Kushina said, and started to walk in the living room, Naruto following close behind her. Hey Mom, what would you give me on my birthday? He asked. Whatever you want, Kushina said while wearing her dress. Really? Naruto asked, and Kushina stopped wearing her bra and looked at Naruto and smirked. Except my milk, you can ask for anything, she said, and Naruto whined, moaned, and Kushina laughed heartily. In evening, Anko came with the cake, and for that Naruto gave her an extra long kiss and hug, and after arranging everything they celebrated his 4th birthday. After having dinner with Uzumaki's, Anko returned to the village, and both Naruto and Kushina continued their late-night celebration. From next day again, his training started. Kushina worked on Naruto's sword handling. He did some of Kushina's given heavy physical exercise until afternoon, and after that Kushina would teach him basic kenjutsu rest of the time. Then they would go and jump in the hot spring together. After bathing, Kushina would give him a book to read on chakra concepts. He would sit in her lap and would ask her if he didn't understand something, and Kushina would explain it to him as best as she could. Kushina also encouraged him in drawing field because she had planned to start his Fuinjutsu training after he completes his 5 years of age. Kushina also started to give him math and other subjects books to read, and she also taught him whenever she could. Overall, this whole year was packed for little Uzumaki. So with determination and complete concentration, and with his mother, Naruto completed his 5th year. After the training, Naruto and Kushina both were resting under the tree. Naruto sat in her lap and Kushina's hand in his hairs. Naruto, Tomorrow you will be 5 years old, and I am very happy to know that you have completed basic phase of your training, and I am very proud of you, Kushina said, kissing his hairs. Now I will start your chakra training, and we will move to the next phase of your training. Kushina briefed him about what was about to come. We will take rest for 1 week, and tomorrow we will go to Konoha and spend our week there, Kushina said, and Naruto whined, I don't want to go in that village. Kushina smiled, I know, but you know what, we are going to leave for Yazushio after that week. So for this week I want you to meet some people there, and I want you to be familiar with the village because I don't want to come here again, but I have this feeling that we will have to return, Kushina said with a thoughtful look on her face. Naruto sighed, okay mom, as you wish. Naruto accepted and Kushina smiled. Okay, let's go and take a bath and then you can rest, and I will teach you math and some biology, Kushina said, and then they both went inside to their bath. After bathing and dressing, which was just for the sake of wearing something, they came out. Kushina wore just a white loose shirt and her panties, and Naruto wore only his boxers. He was more than 3 feet tall at 5 and his body had already started to become solid. They went under the sheets and Naruto lay on his mother's breasts, the favorite place of his. Kushina started to rub his back and hair, making him purr. So is there anything you would want to ask me in math or any problem in the book of math I gave you? Kushina asked softly, and Naruto looked at her, shaking his head in a no. Kushina smiled. Good boy, she said, and again asked. And biology, she asked, and Naruto nodded in a yes. What, she asked? I read about how breasts make milk in them, he said innocently, and with a giggle Kushina nodded. So what's the problem, she asked, and Naruto sat up beside her, and when she saw the sad look on his face she too sat up. He looked serious. Mom, will your breasts stop giving me milk, he asked with wet eyes and puppy dog face. Kushina couldn't help when he looked so cute. She lifted him and smothered him to her breasts, then started to caress his back softly. Naruto, let me explain to you, Kushina said, breaking the hug, and looked at his face. A woman's breast starts to generate milk when they get pregnant with a child, and when that child comes in the world, he or she feeds on this milk. Breasts continue to generate milk till the child needs it or he drinks it, around 3 years or 4 years or maybe more, and when the child starts to eat other things, at that time normally breast stops to produce milk, Kushina said in easiest way so that Naruto could understand. She felt actually sad and wished she would never stop milking when she saw the horror-stricken face of Naruto with tears flowing down to his face. Naruto continued to cry for a while, then he wiped his eyes with his sleeves and stared at his mother's breasts, as if he was threatening them, and then with a growl pounced on her, pushing her on her back. Naruto, what are you doing? Kushina yelped, confused. Naruto grabbed her shirt and tried to rip it. Naruto, what are you doing? She asked again with a little annoyance this time. Naruto stopped for a second and looked at his mother. No, they can't stop making milk. They will have to continue making it. It's my favorite food, he said, growling cutely. Kushina sighed when he succeeded in tearing her shirt and freeing her breasts. Kushina thought to tell him how to behave with a girl. Naruto grabbed her left breast and started to suck on it harshly. He wasn't a baby anymore. He sucked continuously her left breast, squeezing it with both of her hands. His small hands were all over on her left breast's soft flesh, making it pink. Ah escaped from Kushina's mouth, and she immediately put her hands on her mouth. Oh God, I just moaned, she thought inwardly with horror. Naruto, easy baby, she said, hoping for him to calm down, but Naruto didn't listen. After 5 more minutes of vigorous sucking, he switched to her right breast, leaving a red breast. He started to suck fervently on it too, and Kushina bit her tongue to avoid any moaning. She wanted to push him away as much as she wanted to pull him to her breasts. Naruto didn't do anything, he just sucked on her and kept squeezing her breast to squirt milk in his mouth. After 10 minutes he stopped and popped her out of his mouth, which was red obviously. Kushina was breathing hard and Naruto too. Naruto looked at her breasts and pointed a finger towards them. If you stop generating milk, I would. He stopped and started to think by putting a finger to his chin. What would he do? What could he do if they stopped making milk for him? Then suddenly a bulb lightened up on his head and he smirked in triumph, which was just a cute smile for Kushina. He pointed his finger towards his mother's breasts again and said, if you stopped making milk for me, then I would make my mother pregnant, and then you will have to make milk for me again, he said, like he was ordering to her breasts, as if they were some living being. Kushina's eyes widened when Naruto's words registered in her head, and hearing him made her uneasy with a little worry. How far does he intend to go for my milk, she thought in shock, and then narrowing her eyes bumped her fist on his head. Ow, it hurts. Naruto groaned in pain and looked at his mother. Stop it and go to sleep. We have to go to Konoha tomorrow, she said in a stern voice, and immediately pulled the blanket over her head and dozed off. Naruto looked at his mother, confusion all over his face. What did I do to make her mad, he started to think, and when racking his mind for several minutes he couldn't find anything, he fell back snuggling to his mother's back and slept. Next day started with as usual. like the night never happened. They brushed their teeth, took bath. Kushina helped him wear his cloths and also dressed herself in the cloths she used to wear, a white shirt and a pant and a green apron which covered her whole front. They took their breakfast like usual with Kushina's milk for Naruto. Kushina then packed all their necessary things in a single bag, making it heavy, and gave it to Naruto. As Naruto took the large bag of 5 by 5 foot, he immediately fell down and groaned in pain. He whined. Kushina turned towards him with a hidden smirk. What, she asked, feigning like she didn't see that Naruto was under the bag. This bag is heavy. I can't carry it, he moaned. A sickly sweet smile appeared on Kushina's face. She walked to him and kneeled down, and placing her index finger under his chin lifted his face. You will have to carry this bag. It doesn't matter if you can carry it or not, Kushina said, smiling as Naruto's eyes went wide. But Kushina cut him off. No buts, this is your punishment for your rude behavior with my breasts last night, she said in a little louder and edgy voice, and stood up and walked towards the door and stopped at the door and turned back. Hurry up, and if you don't then I will leave you here alone. You will have to live alone for a week doing all the house chore by yourself to survive, she finished and again started to walk, but again she stopped after 5 steps and looked over her shoulder. And most important thing is there would be no milk for a week, she said nonchalantly from outside, since she knew it would get him moving. She turned and walked towards the main door of shrine, leaving a horrified Naruto behind. Naruto's mind stopped working. 1 week without his holy liquid, he would die. He gritted his teeth and with a roar got to work. Kushina was frantically moving towards the main door since she had sensed the chakra of someone she wanted to see and the person who made her Anko's life hell. But he was unable to enter beyond the security seals, so Kushina decided to go out before Naruto comes out. She reached the main gate and walked out without a second thought. She stood there facing straight ahead and her back facing the gate of shrine. Kushina narrowed her eyes and rested her right hand palm on the handle of her sword, placed on her right hip, and her left hand was busy to disable any genjutsu placed in front of her, and she was right. The genjutsu shattered and a figure appeared. I expected better from you, Orochimaru, but this pathetic genjutsu, are you taking me too lightly? Kushina said with disdain in her voice. Orochimaru grinned his wide trademark grin. Kakuku, of course not, Kushina. How can I underestimate you after seeing your prowess all those years ago? I was just. He got cut off by Kushina. Why are you here? She asked coldly, making his grin disappear. Orochimaru smirked. Well, I just wanted to see Kushina again, cut him off mid-sentence. Didn't you hear me? Why are you here? She asked again and released a little killing intent. That got him, and he became serious. Well, behind you is an Uzumaki shrine, and my guess is you know that there is something I desire to obtain, Orochimaru said with as serious as he could. A predatory glint flashed in Kushina's eyes and a cut mark appeared on Orochimaru's cheek, making his eyes go wide. What the she didn't even twitched, and the thought flashed in his head. Kushina calmed down. You want the mask, she said blatantly. Orochimaru came out of his musings and shrugged. Kushina was right, he wanted the mask, and Kushina's direct approach made him a little uneasy. He thought Kushina would be wary of talking about the mask. A smirk formed on Kushina's face which made Orochimaru more unsettling. He raised his eyebrow in confusion. You seem elated, he spit in contempt. Well, sorry to say, but I am the owner of the mask now, so you can go now, she said coldly, crushing his desire to get his hands on the mask. Orochimaru stared at Kushina rather nervously than with any hints of anger, since he knew what she could do. But he will wait for his chance. A smile formed on his face. Well, it's my loss then, but a piece of information for you, he said as he smirked, and it widened by the curious gaze of Kushina. What information? She asked confidently, though she knew he would know she was curious.